and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all-natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, on Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you a lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. A lot of reaction from the weekend and previewing the biggest game of the NFL season tonight right here in Kansas City against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams coming off the bye, 3-point spread right now on this matchup. Chiefs favored by 3. And also, the line dropping 3 points since last week. Maybe because of the rain, the weather, things like that. So
the over-under dropping.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Like
the total. Yeah, the total. I apologize.
That
the
makes
total
sense. It's
going from 48 to 45.5, so 2.5 points is what it's dropped. So roughly a field goal, as most people can go ahead and figure that out on their own. 2.5, roughly a field goal. Maybe because of the weather, maybe some other things, maybe because the primetime games don't really hit the over. We did see one on Thursday night. So 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810, the text line to join us. Here's how the show lines up today. We'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. Typically talk to him on a Tuesday, but we are willing to move some things around. So Adam Teicher will join us today at 11 o'clock from ESPN. And then Field Yates will join us at noon, our NFL insider from ESPN. So we'll talk with Field. Mick Schaefer, our KSHB 41 insider, also sports director, will join us at 1 o'clock. We got some Learn Funniest Best coming your way. And we'll talk some NFL football today, and we will talk some college football as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line. Did you enjoy your Sunday? A couple Sundays, 3 Sundays in a row that you've just been able to sit back and enjoy the witching hour for you, Josh? I mean,
it was beautiful. Yeah. You knew even as every week, you go, is this a great slate of games? And then every time the witching hour comes around, it doesn't matter anymore. So yes, just the greatest spectator sport of all time may be specifically the Red Zone channel as an unaffiliated fan, and it did not disappoint yesterday. Yeah,
the 3 o'clock window, not so much.
No.
But,
the witching hour is where you really make your money. If you give me a good witching hour, I can go ahead and struggle through an underwhelming afternoon slate. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Was it Rams and Seahawks, the great game in the 3 o'clock window, which don't care.
Got to see a little Drew Lock. I mean, that was exciting.
Right. So a little Drew. Rams and Seahawks, teams trying to get to 500 or stay above 500, that being a 17-16 barn burner. But other than that, 49ers jumped out to a huge lead over the Bucs. The Bills dominated the Jets. And then we watched the Broncos go and win on Sunday Night Football. And the Denver Broncos, break them up. They're sitting 5-5 on the season with a 4-game winning streak. Sean Payton, Coach of the Year, Dylan?
He's got some preseason bets that right now he's at least glad he held on to those tickets.
More just takes. I was not willing to put money on it. Just my pride.
Well, how's your pride feeling?
A little better.
That's
way
good.
Better than 1-5 for sure.
Broncos all alone in second place right now at 5-5.
Unreal.
Raiders 5-6, and the Chargers all alone in last place at 4-6. And we'll see how much longer Brandon Staley is still the head coach.
The longest winning streak in football for your Denver Broncos.
Well, the season right now is incomplete. So we'll see what they end up doing as the season rolls along with Sean Payton. Let's talk some college football. And the Sunflower Showdown took place on Saturday. And K-State knocking off KU 31-27. 15 straight now for the Wildcats. I'm looking back at Friday's show predictions. There was one of us that had K-State winning and KU plus the points.
I wonder who that was.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll find it.
The fact that you remembered to check makes me – I got a pretty good guess.
I'll find it. Although maybe the right side was Dylan with KU money line.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, I think both teams come away from this, they can say, like, oh, no, we're the better team, or we're the better team. The one thing that there is no debating is how close the gap is now, or even if there is a gap between the two, because you can say closing the gap versus that's a game to where it was a great atmosphere. KU, well, to start off, K-State came out and looked like they were going to control the game.
Yep.
They drive down the field with relative ease. They get a quick 3 and out. They get the ball back. They drive to midfield, and then the drive stalls. And then KU gets the ball back, and then that long, extended drive puts points on the board, and you're like, okay, this actually might be a game. I thought when K-State got the ball back in their second possession and the first few plays, they're already at midfield. I'm like, this one could get out of hand quickly. And instead, Lance Leipold's squad with third-string quarterback, walk-on Cole Ballard, who, you know, I thought did enough in the game. And he wasn't outplayed by Will Howard. Will Howard didn't have himself a great game through, you know, an interception, through what should have been a pick six as well. That could have been the back-breaking play of the game. But it's not that they're closing the gap. It's that the gap is closed right now. That was anybody's game, and a game in which you come away and go, I feel like KU may have lost the game more than K-State won it. And that is going to make everybody mad,
Yes.
which is what we're here to do.
Yes.
Because then K-State fans are like, oh, they didn't go. And then KU fans are like, oh, we lost the game. We're good. That's my takeaway from that, is that the drop pick six is one that will be remembered for a long time in the Sunflower Showdown. It would have been 34-16 KU at that point. Instead, and this is a credit to K-State, to where you can go, well, they wouldn't won the game. You take advantage of some mistakes or some missed opportunities, because the very next play was the Ward 52-yard run. I mean, the very next play. It wasn't that it was just an extended 4 or 5 plays later, now they're at midfield. It was back-to-back. You drop a pick six, K-State, boom, already into KU territory on a 52-yard run, and then the touchdown. What could have been 34-16 is now 27-24. And then with 14 minutes left to go in the game, up still 27-24, K-State punting to midfield, and the muff punt. 6 plays later, it's 31-27 K-State. I mean, it's that fast. And that's not even including the blocked extra point for a 2-point conversion. That's a 3-point swing. I mean, KU could have been up 14-7 at that point. Instead, it was 13-9. And then K-State scored a touchdown to go up 16-13 instead of 14-14. Like, those are massive plays along the way that worked in K-State's favor, but they also took advantage of those. They had to block the field goal. They had to recover it and return it, or block the extra point, recover it and return it. After the drop pick six, they still had to drive the field. They still had to go and score a touchdown. It was still what? At that point, third down? Like, that was that a first down drop pick six? It was first or second down. Either way, at best for K-State, it was 2nd and 10. And then it was 2nd and 10.
It was 2nd and 10 right into the 50.
Because the 50-yard run was on second down.
Yep.
I remember that. Because I don't think they were handing off on 3rd and 10.
Yep,
they would
that's
have had Will Howard throw it. So it was a second down play, so very next play. But at worst, it's 2nd and 10 for them. They still had to drive the length of the field, but those massive plays along the way, it's one of those to where if you're Lance Leipold, it's tough to sleep. And if you're Chris Kleiman, you feel good. And if you're K-State, you feel good you won. But you also know you walked out of there feeling fortunate that the game went your way, because any one of those plays are different. Who knows what takes place in the game? And yes, there are others that worked against K-State, etc. But my takeaway from the game was that, boy, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch. And the only rooting interest is that, I wanted it to be a good game, and it was a good game. And if you're a K-State fan, you're probably, smoking a couple of packs of cigarettes after the game was over, even if you don't smoke. And if you're a KU fan, you're probably not sleeping.
If you're a KU fan, you're probably smoking packs and packs of
Yeah,
cigarettes.
that's right.
Even if you're
But also not sleeping that night.
Yeah. I'm going to take a different angle to protect us from the EMA emails, which is just a thing that I constantly live in a little bit of fear of. Shout out to K-State fans. No,
Shane's
pretty much Shane and my in-laws. Really, this thing now. I got to protect the purple shield now.
Can't Shane just walk down the hallway and talk to you instead of emailing you?
I will not allow Shane to look me in the eye, and you know that. I refuse. It's a long-standing tradition. We do not make eye contact, me and Shane. That goes back to Suns Nuggets, though.
If you sit in that chair, you don't want to be around Shane, apparently, because Corey moved to Utah
to get away from Shane.
It's odd.
Being in this chair is odd because sometimes I just go hours and hours without ever seeing Dylan's face, despite the fact that he is constantly reminding us how to do this radio show.
I get to look at him for 4 hours a day.
I'm so jealous. It's the worst part of this angle. Would you be offended if I started sitting like this?
No.
I could talk. You could look at my right
sense.
ear while I talk. But here's what I will say from the K-State perspective, because I think it is a fair and accurate and important thing to note. We talked about this on Sound Off last night with the aforementioned Mick Schaefer and Blair Kirchhoff, who is clearly the class of that group.
Yes.
But the open-ended question was, is the Sunflower Showdown back? And of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it is. But if you're taking the Kansas State side here, and maybe it's the thing that helps you sleep okay without feeling any guilt or feeling too lucky, this is the first time that when the rivalry is back at full tilt, turned up to 100, you have a game where you are far from perfect, where your rival leaves some points on the table, some opportunities on the table. You leave their home stadium with that W in your pocket, who cares?
Yeah.
And it's not always that way of, we beat a crappy Kansas team by 4 points, and now we're taking this bus ride back trying to figure out if we're actually good or not. You know this is a good Kansas team, and it's still unfortunate. You're right. This wasn't Ballard's fault or anything like that. This was not a Zach Wilson derailing. This is not the first Tommy DeVito game. This is not a quarterback in and over his head, which is a testament to the KU coaching staff. It would have been fun to see Jason Bean, who was apparently available. It would have been even more fun to see Jalen Daniels, who obviously wasn't. But if you are K-State, and if the word you have to use is escape, that's fine. But you escaped with a win over your rival at its most full-throated, full plumage that it's had in more than a decade, even without its number one or number two quarterback. And that guy isn't the reason that you won that game. So I think that this is, in a weird kind of all signs pointing in the right direction moment for the Sunflower Showdown, this is another underlining of where Kansas stands now. Mm-hmm. It is a reminder that Kansas State has been setting a standard there for a beat longer than KU has. And it's a reminder that next year you can circle this date all over again, and you know it's going to be another banger.
Basically, KU walks away. Both teams walk away with ifs until next season.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. KU walks away with negative or positive ifs over a negative outcome. K-State negative ifs over a positive outcome.
And isn't that all you want from a rivalry game?
Right.
And they and you know what? K-State, whether they escaped or not, they keep their Big 12 championship hopes alive.
Yep.
I mean, they are still alive to play in the Big 12 championship. There are a lot of different scenarios. There are so many different scenarios that the Big 12 hasn't even released all of the different tie-breaking scenarios. They just said, there are so many scenarios, get back to us.
Yeah.
We'll let you know. Here's what happens if Texas wins on Friday, or if Texas Tech wins on Friday. Here are the different things that need to happen. Well, if Texas loses and so and so and so and so, there are so many different scenarios, and then it just ends. Then it just ends. There are multiple scenarios. Yeah, we realize that. But
Page
what
2
would be? They're like, because it depends on if K-State wins or Oklahoma wins or Oklahoma State wins, and what if two of them win? What if one of them wins? What if all three of them lose? What if all three of them wins? Da. We'll see. K-State just go out and win this weekend. Oklahoma State just go and win. Oklahoma State needs, I do know this, Oklahoma State needs Texas to win and Oklahoma State to win so that they can play in the Big 12. If Texas loses, then it gets pretty crazy. Then it can get pretty crazy. But K-State, their hopes and dreams still alive in playing for a Big 12 championship. And again, this is not to my point about feeling like KU may have lost the game is not to dismiss K-State's play, because again, when I said that, immediately that they then had to make the plays. The drop pick 6, they still drove 87 yards.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was at the 13-yard line. It was first down at their own 13 yards.
Exactly.
They still drove 87 yards after the drop pick 6.
Yep.
Up 27-16. If you get a stop for KU, you get the ball at midfield. Assuming you catch the punt. But you get the ball at midfield. And K-State made the plays. And a couple of third down conversions for K-State. Will Howard coming through in a couple of big plays and runs, and a 2-point conversion run, and the touchdown run, and then the third down and 7 9-yard pass to Phillip Brooks that people will be arguing one way or another for the next 20 years. Even if that thing's incomplete, doesn't mean that KU is going to go down and score and win the game. But they had opportunities too, because KU got to the 16-yard line of K-State before the sack that moved them to 2nd and 17 or whatever.
Yep, 16.
And then the nice run on third down by Ballard setting up the 4th and 5. But they had a chance there. They got down to the 16-yard line with first down by 4 with 6 minutes to go. And credit K-State for then running out the clock the rest of the way. So this should be a fun one moving forward, year in and year out. And that streak isn't going to live much longer, the 15 straight now. It's in Manhattan next year, so maybe it lives for one more year.
Right.
Maybe in a couple of, maybe it'll be 16 straight. Maybe it'll just be one of those to where Chris Kleiman and Lance Leipold have these back and forths, and Lance Leipold can't ever get over the hump. But I expect that to happen. I think what we also saw is, you can say, a team that's experienced, seasoned, been there, done that, played for a Big 12, won the Big 12 championship, and they found ways to either make the play or overcome plays that were not made. And KU couldn't do it. And did KU rise to the moment? They did for about 2 3/4 quarters, a little more than 2.5 quarters. And then late in the third, early fourth, K-State made plays after plays after plays after plays and found a way to get it done, and they got a chance still alive to play for a Big 12 championship. Mizzou found a way to win over the weekend on Saturday. They exchanged a loss to Jackson State in basketball for a 4th and 17 conversion with Brady Cook to a little-known walk-on receiver, small little dude that you can't really see on the Eddie Goodell of receivers, they call him. Pretty much. The little walk-on guy.
Chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, he actually goes up to the waist of Cody Schrader and just lost in the middle of the field. Nobody could see him, and I understand why Florida wouldn't guard this guy that nobody's heard of, this Boother Lurden.
Oh, sorry, no.
The fourth.
Tips on the shelves.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's
Not
different
chips on the
chips.
shoulder. Yes.
Sorry, different chips.
Yes. I'm not sure what Florida was doing or how 20 yards down the field you would have that much space for a couple receivers in the area, but they did. Missouri made the play. They made a few more plays. Mevis kicks the field goal on senior night. Seniors walk off with a win. They feel great about it. They beat Florida. Eli Drinkwitz in the middle of an interview, stop it, put 1 second back on the clock just to go back out there to have one more play that was an incomplete pass. That was fun, or a complete pass tackle. I don't remember what it was. I just knew that the game was over. They tried to do the lateral, whatever, and do that hook and ladder stuff. But the game, to me, I thought they lost it a couple times. Like, I really did. I thought they had lost the game a couple of times, and they have the long pass to Theo East to put them up, 9 points at that time. And at that point, I thought the game was over. And then they couldn't keep the ball. Florida goes down and scores. They get 1 first down. Oddly enough, the first down they get was by throwing it 3 times with Brady Cook. And then they hand it off twice to Cody Schrader. And then third down, they don't pick up the first down. I am glad that if they were only going to get 1 first down on that drive, that it happened that way, that it wasn't they handed the ball off twice to Cody Schrader and then threw for a first down, and then they threw 3 straight times and punted, because then the cry would be, why don't you just keep handing it to Cody Schrader? I'm glad that the first down happened because they threw it 3 times with Brady Cook, and then they didn't necessarily just get that easy first down with Cody Schrader. I was waiting for the Cody Schrader busting a 50-yard run, because that's typically what he's done. He's been the closer, the Cody Shredder that's been out there, and he did that earlier in the game against Florida. But to step up and make that play at that moment with what was on the line of a New Year's Six Bowl or not, to get to 10 wins if you beat Arkansas on Friday, a Florida team that was playing with way more energy and passion than I gave them credit for playing with, and that's part of them wanting to make a bowl game and the impassioned speech that Graham Mertz gave last week. And unfortunately, local kid breaks his collarbone. That sucks. hate injuries, hate him, hate him, hate him. And it happened on a play where he was just you know what, I'm taking on the team. I'm not going to lose this game. And he picks up the first down and goes through 2 Missouri defenders. But Brady Cook making the play that he did, depending on what happens on over the next 2 games for Mizzou, it's one of the things that people will remember about Brady Cook is that 4th down and 17 play. It was as big as it gets for the implications of the season. You're not playing for an SEC championship, but a chance to go to a New Year's Six Bowl, essentially what used to be a BCS Bowl, to go to a New Year's Six Bowl and win 10 games for the first time in a decade for Mizzou. It was a monster moment for Brady Cook to step up and find the guy in Luther Burden, and I'm not sure what Florida was doing and who they were guarding on that particular play.
It's another instance of, hey man, just don't look at this one too close. Like it is okay to just put your arms up in the air and say, all right, baby, we're riding some SEC football roller coasters right now, and whatever happens, happens. Football. I mean, every sport has a dose of randomness to it. Obviously, football puts it on a pedestal for you. I mean, just crazy stuff happens all the time. Of your miracle 4th and long plays, or the field goals that just miss, or double doink through, or everything that makes this sport so chaotic. If you're a Mizzou fan, you have spent this last decade feeling like you've been on the wrong side of all of those bounces, and on the wrong side of not having those big plays, and the wrong side of not having one superstar wide receiver who inexplicably comes wide open in a huge moment. You haven't had that. Yeah. So don't look that gift gator too close in the mouth, because mostly it's a gator.
Yeah.
And second, because this is it. Like this is like the Jackson State loss is a hilarious combo, because that's what Mizzou fans have grown to expect from just their athletic department in general. It's like, well, there'll be some crushing loss early in a season, right after we get our hopes up, whatever.
24 hours later.
We will be deflated and then reinflated and then deflated again. Like, that's right. Just what happens. And you have gotten, by combination of good coaching, good recruiting, good playing, good execution, and good luck, you've got a New Year's Six Bowl right in front of you right now. Like, if that isn't electric to Mizzou football fans, something died in you a long time ago. If this hasn't reawoken it.
That's right. Yes. We were joking yesterday at Sunday Sound Off. I'm like, I just don't have the emotional capacity for college basketball right now to feel really anything about the loss to Jackson State.
Good.
Like, at all.
Don't need to.
Like, at all. I was texting with my brother and nephew, and I'm like, this team has problems. And I move on.
And I will figure it out after the bowl game.
Yes. In March, it may be one that I look back and like, oh, that's one you wish you could have back. Missouri in March will really wish they had that one back, because that is a seed line loss. That is you should be a 7. Well, now you're an 8. You should be a 6. Well, now you're on the 7, 10, 8, 9 line. You should be in the tournament. Well, now you're the 69th or 70th team. And if you don't make the tournament, you know what I'll say on this radio station on Monday from 10 to 2, if they're not in the tournament and it's close, beat Jackson State.
You have to say it really slowly to say it from 10 to 2.
We'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock from ESPN. Field Yates coming up at noon. Mick Schaefer, 1 o'clock. Some learned funniest and best coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. What we learned from the weekend, the funniest from the weekend, and, of course, the best from the weekend. Man, I wonder what Mick's best will be. I'm not sure what his best will be from the weekend. I can't imagine what his best would be since our show ended on Friday. Is it probably, you know what, it's them winning against Houston, Oklahoma State.
I mean, Oklahoma
Yeah.
State did
It's gotta
not
be.
trip over themselves against the other space
They tried.
school.
They
so
tried.
I think that...
Trailing at halftime, they tried.
They didn't trip over themselves to death.
That's right. That's right.
Which is an improvement.
The launch got delayed, but eventually in the second half they took off.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best thing that happened to Mick. I can't think of anything else.
Nothing else.
Chiefs didn't play.
I mean, one of the things I learned is maybe some instant replay in the playoffs for high school, but I think that's completely different from whatever the best for Mick was.
Can't imagine him having
That's right.
much skin in the game there.
Not at all. Not at all. 913-912-4810. Let's talk Chiefs and Eagles as they get set for the game tonight. We'll see what the weather is going to be. Obviously, it's going to be wet and rainy throughout the day. How much will it rain during the game? How much will that impact the field, impact the game? I'm nervous because the Eagles will be playing on a slick field and the Chiefs will not be playing on a slick field. So that's concerning that the water will come out when the Eagles have an important play or have the ball and slip and fall, or they're trying to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. That's really a concern. Obviously, as being at home and playing apparently on the same turf that's in Arizona, that one of the Eagles players said at some point that, well, apparently they play on the exact same field at Arrowhead, so that's why they're used to it. Yeah, the exact same.
They also play on a tar pit that was dried out by hair dryers. Yeah, that's what they did.
Also, the Sod Fathers banging the drum tonight, I've heard.
Oh, my
allegedly.
God.
As he
that
should
would be so-
as he should be. And while he bangs the drum, Drew Mangan,
He's
you
actually-
lied.
He's using Eddie Mangan as
Eddie Mangan, damn it.
He's using Eddie Mangan as the baton or whatever, as the drumstick.
what?
There's a word for that.
To heck with Eddie Mangan's brother, Drew. All
That
right,
guy- that
both
guy's
of
the
them.
word. His
Both
middle-
of
his
them
middle-
done.
Eddie Andrew Mangan.
I see Drew on site. On site. If I see you, Drew Mangan, on site, just because of your by proxy to Ed Mangan.
Listen, this is some old school stuff, but sometimes you see a guy's brother out there, you got to handle some business.
Got to take him out sometimes, man. Just got to let him know what his brother would have received had he been here.
I'm gonna see if there's a Drew Mangan
There's got to be a Drew Mangan somewhere.
somewhere. Sure,
I mean, Mangan's a very popular last name.
there's a Drew Mangan on the PGA Junior Tour.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
Bleep this kid.
That little punk, huh? Out there sinking putts and walking around, doing the bull dance, feeling the flow, working it. No. Nope. Is that Ed's grandson?
His graduation year is 2017 on this website,
Oh.
so we're gonna I'll have to source this.
No longer on
further.
the junior.
There's an Andrew Mangan in U.S. rowing
Oh,
on the
okay.
senior national team. All right, I got juniors and seniors. So far, no sophomores or juniors. Freshman or sophomore.
We got some freshmen, man. Freshmen's?
There's an Andrew Mangan who writes for
Freshmen.
538.
These are freshmen's. All right, let's get into the Chiefs
Take
and
that, Eddie.
Eagles. I was looking at the after listening to the press conferences on Friday during our show, and then again on Saturday. You know, a lot of talk about the holding penalties, etc. And Matt Nagy had pointed out, sometimes you leave the pocket and it creates an issue with the offensive line and holding and stuff like that. So I went back and looked at every single holding call for the Chiefs.
Love it.
Because apparently I didn't have anything to do this weekend. Actually had a lot to do. Very busy. But last night decided to spend a little bit of time during the amazing Broncos-Vikings game to go back and look at every single holding penalty, including one that was declined, and then there was a holding penalty that was declined because it was a intentional grounding along with holding, and then there was an offsetting holding and illegal contact penalty. So even if you throw those in there. And I was just curious as to how the holding penalties happened. Were they dropbacks? Was it scramble? Things like that. So out of the 15 holding penalties for the Chiefs, offensive line only, Offensive line only holding penalties. Don't care about running backs or wide receivers or anything like that. 15 holding calls, including the declined, offsetting, the one decline, the offsetting, and then the intentional grounding / decline the holding, but take the intentional grounding. 15 of them. How many were a result of a scramble? And I'll ask Dylan the same thing. And I don't want to lead you one way or another. Because that was my question. I was just genuinely curious about, okay, is he leaving pockets early? Is that an easier than, I guess, easier as a relative term, for lack of a better term, but an easier fix to it?
I'm going to follow my priors here, and I'm going to say 3 of the 15.
3 of the 15.
I'm going to go with a very low number.
Low number. Dylan?
Yeah, same. I'm going to go with like 3 or 4. 4.
Interesting.
I would love to be wrong on this one.
I thought you guys were going to go higher.
I kind of think it's the line's fault.
Only 2.
All right, Dylan, we're in the ballpark, baby.
Even with the decline.
Wow.
Even with those 2 holding penalties. You remember one of them. That was the Jets. The Jets game, in which it was Trey Smith, and that was a little ticky-tack.
Okay, I was going to ask if you'd also reviewed the quality of any of those, because that would seem kind of ticky-tack.
A little ticky-tack. And then the other one was against the Dolphins in the third quarter, second drive. Mahomes, it's when he picked up the 9-yard gain. He was hit out of bounds, and it was like, Creed Humphrey held on a little bit too long.
Yeah. Both on the interior guys.
Yeah, so Mahomes got away, Creed held. Now, what would need to be differentiated, which I did, is some of the holds resulted in Mahomes getting out and scrambling. The holds were not, like there was one against the Dolphins in the second quarter. They were up 7-0. It was during the 95-yard drive. It was 2nd and 12. Donovan Smith, it ended up being the offsetting penalties, so they did it again on 2nd and 12. Mahomes straight drop back. Donovan Smith was beat outside by Bradley Chubb. He pulled him down, and then Mahomes, feeling Chubb, gets out and scrambles. That was not a holding penalty because of a scramble.
Right.
That was a holding penalty that essentially created the scramble. And there were also a couple of holding penalties on running plays that I didn't include, so I don't care. Like, those aren't all the holding penalties this year for the Chiefs were just those, okay? Those were the holding penalties on passing plays. And I find that more concerning.
Yeah, me too.
That the guys were just simply beat. If you go through the holding penalties this year, against the Lions, straight drop back, Trey Smith was just beat by Aiden Hutchinson. Inside, Aiden Hutchinson's a beast and beat him. Donovan Smith, in the fourth quarter, 2nd and 10, that was the drive. That was the pass to Sky Moore after the drop pass by Kadarius Toney. Donovan Smith was just simply beat inside. Got jabbed outside, went inside. Smith held him, pulled him down. Easy call, holding, 3rd and 20. Then there was the false start by Juwan Taylor, 3rd and 25. Against the Jags, Donovan Smith, straight drop back, got beat inside, and then pulled the guy, and it was a hold. Juwan Taylor, a straight drop back, speed around the edge. Josh Allen pulled him down. That was the second of the holding because he got called for a holding penalty on a running play, and then he got benched. The Jets, fourth quarter, 3rd and 12, Juwan Taylor, drop back around the edge, just pulled him down. Then there was the scramble by Mahomes against the Jets, which was Trey Smith, and that was the pocket breaking down, nothing he could do. Juwan Taylor against the Broncos, again, got beat inside and held the guy as he was getting past him. Mahomes then forced to scramble, goes around the right side, and it's called back. There was one that was declined later on a 3rd and 10. That was a straight drop back as well. Donovan Smith, straight drop back, got beat inside, held the guy, overcorrected on the outside, got beat inside. And then against the Dolphins, there was the offsetting one. There was the Trey Smith straight drop back. They ran a stunt, and Trey Smith was late getting to his right and grabbed him. And because the guy was running free up the middle, that's when Mahomes then ran to his right. So he scrambled because of the guy running free, but also Trey Smith held the guy, not knowing Mahomes was scrambling. They just got beat. That's way more concerning than Mahomes leaves a clean pocket, and the guy, you're blocking him and no big deal, and all of a sudden the guy tries to get away and you've got a little bit too far outside, which is what Matt Nagy had said. Maybe your arms are a little too far outside. You got to get those arms a little inside when you're grabbing on that jersey, grabbing on those pads and the breastplate. That's happened twice this year. The line has just simply gotten beat by pass rushers. Is that an easier fix? That, okay, just play better? Because if there's the scrambling things, okay, that's going to be tough for you to fix. The offensive linemen are not going to be able to see when Patrick Mahomes is leaving the pocket and your back is to Patrick Mahomes. Okay, you hold him a little bit too long. That sucks. Nothing you can really do about that one. But you can not get beat the way that they have gotten beat on holding calls. The weird part about this, Josh, is how high Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith rate in pass block win rate.
Yeah.
They're both in the top 10.
Yeah.
Or top 13 of all tackles in the NFL. Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith. I mean, that's 64 starting tackles in the NFL, and they're both in the top 12, 13 in pass block win rate. But if they do get beat, they hold quickly.
Yeah, that part's interesting because like that was kind of the calling card for Orlando Brown, which is that like when he loses, it looks bad, and that kind of adjusted how people viewed him.
Yeah.
Understandably, he would take some like blowout losses essentially. And so I'm on NFLpenalties.com, which also has the Chiefs with 15 offensive holds, and I don't know if that's including non-O-line holds or whatever, but it has differentiation for what was accepted and not. I'm not even using it for the Chiefs, just to say that the average right now per team on offensive holding penalties on the year is 11.5. So the Chiefs having 15 isn't way above average, but it is 5th or 6th here in the NFL. When they have one less game played than everyone in front of them and 2 less games played than Arizona, who played and hasn't had a bye yet. So the Chiefs are still on the wrong side of the league here. Even if it is 2 or 3 flags could make the difference about where you kind of fit in. The why is way more interesting.
Yeah.
That's the intriguing part. I think right now the Chiefs like it when they can blame Patrick Mahomes for something. Because if you can say it's what Nagy did there, well, when Mahomes bails and they get grabby, then it's this. Because there is an implied and earned, well, Mahomes will figure it out. They'll keep working with Mahomes. If the receivers are on Mahomes, if the offensive line is on Mahomes, you can say, well, we know the outrageously high standard set for Patrick Mahomes. We know how incredible he is at all of these things. And then as the year goes on, they're all going to figure this out. Mahomes will figure out who he can throw the ball to. He'll figure out when he can and cannot bail out of a pocket or put guys in bad positions. If you're just straight up getting beat here and there, and when you do get beat, you hold, that is not ideal. The hope, this is not a prediction, this is just a hope. The hope is that you could say, well, it is the first year in Kansas City for Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor. And for Donovan Smith, this is certainly true. For Jawan Taylor, probably less so for Smith and more so than now. They were blocking for quarterbacks who, again, especially for Donovan Smith, if you got beat, hold and hope you don't get called, because Tom Brady is not going to get the ball out he'll get the ball out as quickly as he can, but if he is under duress, Tom Brady's not going to flush out to the right and try to find somebody while he works in space. Trevor Lawrence can do that. He's got some physical talents, but he doesn't do it quite in the same way that Mahomes does. Oh, he did yesterday. But point being, maybe there's a little bit of a philosophical thing you could say for, hey, Smith and Taylor, if you get beat, just die a slow death and keep the play alive, because Mahomes has incredible play extending abilities. The part where that is, once again, just underlined as hope, despite not having a ton of evidence to support that that's a teaching point. The other issue is that there are holds coming from Creed and Trey Smith and even Joe Tooney's they've had issues with those stunts to such a high, weird extent this year that I have way more kind of full-scale, wholesale concerns about what that offensive line is doing as a unit right now, and it's uncomfortable. I don't know. It makes me very uneasy, and I'm not as uneasy about the idea of Patrick Mahomes just figuring it out and kind of gelling as they go.
And another interesting point, of the 6 holding penalties between Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith combined, 4 of them they got beat on the inside and held.
That can't.
So I don't know.
Happen.
I mean, is that just they're overcorrecting? They're not going to get beat on the outside, and just somebody very quick and good, and it was one move, and it's like, hey, you got me on that one.
Sure, I guess.
But around the outside, I'm winning.
That's a bad book to have as the way to beat you, though.
And also, it's opposite of Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown never got beat inside. Yep. He was always getting beat around the edge because guys were way more athletic than he was. These guys aren't necessarily allowing the around the edge, but some of those holding calls coming when a guy gets him on the inside. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. And there's a lot more that I want to look at in the Chiefs' offenses where they can improve. We'll talk with Adam Teicher. We got Field Yates. We got Mick Schaefer. More to come right here on a Monday edition of The Zone, Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we'll talk with Adam Teicher, ESPN, Chiefs Insider. Get his thoughts on this matchup. You know, we talked last week and broke down a few things from the first half of the season. And now, coming out of the bye, the AFC, what it looks like. What a difference 10 weeks make. Well, just in anything, right? 2.5 months. But what we thought the AFC was versus what it is now. It's amazing the level of difficulty that isn't there anymore. Some we'll talk with Adam Teicher about, but also look at some of the particulars of this team. The big plays, explosive plays on the offense that are missing, why, how, and matchups for tonight's game.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We head up until 2 o'clock. Let's talk with our Chiefs insider from ESPN, Adam Teicher. He's presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you. Available at an awesome price featuring savory soups, crisp salads, and a variety of sandwiches to satisfy your every craving. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Adam Teicher joining us. Adam, how are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How you doing today?
I am doing just fine. I am wondering about the weather and what will take place with that. What do you think tonight may look like as expected rain throughout the day and even throughout the game tonight?
Yeah, hard to predict what which team will handle that better, if any, and what kind of effect that would have on the game. But these are two accomplished teams, accomplished quarterbacks. I feel like this maybe will be less of a factor than people think on this game. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong, but I feel like both teams will be able to play through this okay.
Yeah, well, we know that if they're slipping, it'll only be one team that'll be slipping. It'll just be the Eagles, so we hope it's a good surface for them. I'd hate for them to have to, try to change out their cleats or something like that. In general, Adam, throughout your years, and I guess each team is different and each situation might be different, but in general, do you find it, easier or more efficient to run the ball or pass the ball in the rain? Conventional wisdom would say, the better running team would be a little bit more efficient, be better in that game if there's a lot of rain, but also the wide receivers know where they're going and they can plan at certain times, and the cornerbacks and secondary, they are reacting to the wide receivers, so they may not be able to, plant as well as the wide receivers. In your experience, is there one side or the other that typically performs better?
No, I don't think so. You talk, particularly when it falls around the passing game, you talk to quarterbacks, and most of them will tell you that rain really, and including Patrick Mahomes, he'll tell you, rain isn't really a problem. That's not a real issue, at least not with the quarterbacks or with him. What they don't like to see is when it gets really windy. Mm-hmm. That's when it can start affecting. They feel like it can affect the passing game. So I feel like if it's just some rain and not some wind to go along with that maybe this isn't going to be as big of a factor. So, no, I really don't think so. I think that thing about running the ball when it's rainy, I think that's an old school thing. That maybe that was more applicable back in the day when they played on baseball fields and things got muddy and all that. But you just don't see that very much in the NFL anymore. And so I feel like the passing game has kind of been a beneficiary of that.
Yeah, and to your point, it's not expected to be a windy night. There's some winds, around, I guess, averaging around 8 to 10 miles an hour. So there are some gusts that might be in the 20s, but we've seen some weather come in to where the constant wind is about 20 miles an hour and gusts in the 30s and 40s. That's not going to be tonight, or at least right now, that's not expected to be tonight. Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest. So the bye week is over. The Chiefs get ready for the Eagles tonight. Is there something you expect or want to see as this team, coming out of the bye? Whether it's let's talk offense first. Is there something you expect to see coming out of the bye, or want to see some sort of a change with this team?
Well, I expect them to be closer to the offensive team that we've seen in the last few years. And I think it's probably I've certainly given up on the thought that maybe they're going to be, lead the league again in scoring, even over these last 8 games. I don't know that it's going to be that kind of team, but they certainly can be more efficient and more productive than what they've been the last, the first 9 games of the season, or most of the first 9 games of the season. So I'm thinking that's where I'm looking is something closer to what we've known them to be, and not this on again, off again team that has scored offensively, scored 23 points in the last 2 games.
Do you think it is just penalties and turnovers that we've heard a couple of coaches, Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, have talked about, eliminate the penalties, stop turning the ball over, and things will be different? Is it as simple as that, or is there some other underlying factors going on?
Well, the turnovers are always a problem, but every team goes through that, at some point or another, and they just haven't handled that part of it very well. They've been pretty good in the past. Remember they had a turnover problem. What was it, 21 early in the year, and they were still being productive when they weren't turning it over. I feel like that's maybe that certainly holding on to the ball would help, give them more possessions, but I don't feel like that's in the Chiefs' DNA is turnovers. The penalties might be a different story. That might be a thing the Chiefs have to live with and deal with because I feel like if you haven't cleaned that part of it up by this point of the season, you're probably going to have to live with it.
Yeah, and I don't expect them to clean up the penalties, quite frankly. It's just not something that the Chiefs' offense has been all that great at, over the years. I mean, they are typically a higher penalized team. They run a lot more plays, but they're a higher penalized team. Those things are going to happen. The difference is they've been able to overcome those things in the past. Adam Teicher from ESPN is our guest. I was looking at some of the next-gen stats at ESPN over the weekend, and just looking at the explosive plays of the offense, because Matt Nagy had said that, hey, they're still doing some of the things. They're still taking their shots, and they need to be more efficient in doing those, but they're still, going downfield at whatever rate or clip that's been there in the past. And so I wanted to look, and, the average completed air yards, which is just average yards in the air, the passes thrown that's actually completed, and then the average intended air yards, so how many yards the ball flies on every intended pass, every single pass play of the season. And this year, Patrick Mahomes, even taking away the average completed air yards, because, drop passes start to lower that, whatever. The average intended air yards is down almost a full yard from a year ago, Adam. Like that to me is not they're taking their shot. It's the lowest in Patrick Mahomes' career, and it's the first time it's been below 7. I mean, in 2018, it was at 9.2. It's at 6.8 this year. I mean, that's the difference from when he first burst onto the scene, and we know what they were doing there versus what they're doing now. The numbers don't say that they're still taking those same shots. The numbers say that they are continuing to throw things underneath. If that's the case, do they need to design some more plays, take some shots, loosen up the defense a little bit? Not just throw it down there no matter what, it doesn't matter, but, design some plays to where you might get somebody open and try to loosen the defense just to keep them honest from time to time, because the intended air yards being as low as they are, Patrick Mahomes, out of 37 qualifying quarterbacks this year, he's ranked 32nd in intended air yards.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right, that they're taking as many shots down the field as they always have. That doesn't sound right. I mean, I haven't gone through the numbers, but the ones you're given right now make it pretty clear that that's not the case. And, I do feel like that is a thing that can be a weapon for the Chiefs, throwing it down the field and taking some shots. Even if, no one's open, you still have to make some teams honor that. So, I do feel like that's an area maybe where the Chiefs haven't been good at stretching the field. Maybe from, the width of the field, maybe they've been as good, but certainly not the length of the field. No way.
Can they run the ball to help get them out of that? I mean, it's sort of the chicken and the egg. If you're running the ball really well, you can make those defenses come up to the line of scrimmage, and then you can beat them deep. Okay, so if you're continuing to beat them deep, okay, now that you can run the ball and attack them, like whichever way, it sounds perfect in theory, right? They're playing up, hit them over the top. They're playing deep, run the ball. If it was that easy, every offense would be scoring 40 points per game. It's not. But how much do you think the running game, and maybe not necessarily RPOs, but just, hey, let's run some power runs. Let's get the offensive line to the next level. It will be tough against the Eagles because that front four and those defensive tackles are freaking good. But just in general in the second half of the season, Adam.
Yeah, this might not be the game to expect a big game from Isaiah Pacheco. But, no, I always think that can be part of the solution. And I've said this a number of times. I think the Chiefs are guilty about giving up on their running game. Many times that's happened over the years. Andy Reid's a pass-first guy, and certainly Patrick Mahomes has adopted that philosophy from him. So, I think that that can be part of the problem, absolutely. To me, Isaiah Pacheco, for all the guys who are underperforming at wide receiver, to me, maybe the most underutilized offensive threat is Isaiah Pacheco. He's still having a nice year, but I feel like there's more for the Chiefs to get out of him. And, there's a balance there. You don't want to wear him out before the playoffs come, certainly. But I do feel like that's a place the Chiefs can go for some help.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a good point you made. I think it was last week when we were talking about guys in the passing game, and they're like, your point was that, like, look, I mean, people look at Isaiah Pacheco running the ball, use him more in the passing game, find ways to get him involved, not just hand the ball off to him. So, yeah, I've used that point a couple of times since you brought that up last week. Adam Teicher is our guest from Twin Peaks, from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Let's talk about the defense, Adam. Sometimes when we talk about baseball and this new guy bursts onto the scene and he's really awesome, but then they get the quote unquote book on that particular player and it starts to slow down a little bit. After 9 games, 10 weeks, the book is out on the Chiefs defense. So this isn't a first 3 weeks of the season they've been really good and wait till teams start to figure out what they're doing and then they start to attack them in some of their weaknesses. As you look at this Chiefs defense, do you think if there is a weakness, where would it be? And do you think there is a quote-unquote weakness to this Chiefs defense right now?
Well, I'll just defer to what we've seen the first 9 games. As much time as opposing offensive coordinators spend on finding a weakness, they have not done it yet. There's nowhere that anybody has been able to consistently pick on the Chiefs and find a weakness there. That doesn't mean there isn't one, but certainly one isn't evident right now. Certainly not a consistent weakness. There may be some matchup things from week to week that the Chiefs need to be careful of. I don't think there's anything there that they're going to need that's sort of the magic bullet that's going to do in the Chiefs on defense. I don't see that at this point. Maybe some injuries, at some point catch up to them or something like that. But I think what we're seeing from them is real. And, again, that's not to say from time to time there won't be a team that finds some matchups that work in their favor. But I really don't think that that's going to be a consistent thing from week to week.
What'd you make of Spags last week when he was asked about L'Jarius Sneed and some of the penalties? I love the line. He said there are some cost of doing business penalties there with L'Jarius.
Yeah, and we've talked about that the Chiefs maybe are going to get more of those kinds of penalties because of this style of play. And I kind of asked him about that, and he kind of backed off a little bit. And I was kind of looking maybe for some examples of things, and he didn't give them to me. So, but I do agree with him that the Chiefs are probably going to get more of those kinds of penalties. And certainly, while they're frustrating in the moment, I think in the big picture, his penalties have been worth it, given the other things he's doing for the Chiefs. So if I'm them, I'm saying to him, hey, just keep on doing what you're doing, and we'll live with the occasional, holding or legal contact or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the way that L'Jarius Sneed plays, I don't want to take his aggressiveness away. And, as long as it's not a 3rd and 20, holding penalty, like be smart. And they've talked about that too. Like, yeah, you can be aggressive, but understand, score, time, down, distance situation, that on 3rd and 20, you don't need to be grabbing at the line of scrimmage, or you got to make sure your hands are lower when you're punching at the line of scrimmage at the snap so you don't pick up an illegal hands to the face, which Sneed has had a couple because he is a taller cornerback. So he's probably a guy that has to focus a little bit more on, going lower, because if he's going up a little too high and then the wide receiver might be ducking when he's coming out of his break and, the hand might get up there in the face mask, those are things that you have to avoid if you're L'Jarius Sneed. But again, just be smart. Adam Teicher is our guest from ESPN, joining us here in the Zone, presented by Twin Peaks. All right, Adam, matchups for tonight. We talked about the offense. We talked about the defense. One thing I will point out, is that Jalen Hurts is no longer wearing the sleeve/brace in practice this week. He talked about the bye week coming at the perfect time. He had been wearing a sleeve and a brace on his knee and been, limping at times and limiting his ability to run. I don't know if that'll be the case. Maybe it's just practice. Maybe he'll throw it back on for the game. But any matchups you're looking at tonight that you'll be focusing on to give you an indication of one way or another how this game may go?
Well, the Chiefs have done such a nice job this year against elite wide receivers, and the job they did against Tyreek Hill last week or 2 weeks ago, for instance, is a classic example of that. Giving him 8 catches but only 62 yards and taking the ball away from him. That's just fantastic, and they've been doing that kind of thing all year. But now comes A.J. Brown, and I'm just wondering. He's such a different kind of guy. I'm just wondering what kind of success the Chiefs will have against him. I mean, I don't think he'll just, run crazy and have a huge night, but I'm wondering whether he's going to be maybe the guy who doesn't break, this string of number one receivers just not being productive against the Chiefs because he's just such a different guy, and they do have, Devontae Smith, of course, to go along with him. So, that's kind of the guy I'm going to have my eye on when the Eagles have the ball is A.J. Brown and whether he can't become a guy who breaks that streak for the Chiefs. Now, when the Chiefs have the ball, it's always going to go to Travis Kelce because nowhere else has the Chiefs been able to be consistent with this on offense this year. And will they be able to take him out? Will the Eagles be able to take him out like the Dolphins did a couple weeks ago, and so I don't know. I mean, we'll see, but that's kind of another one that I figure bears watching is how they defend the Eagles defend Travis Kelce. Yeah,
no Dallas Goedert tonight as well. Jack Stoll, the Philadelphia Eagles backup tight end, has 3 targets on the season. So, I mean, that is a vastly different. You're talking about, 52 targets for Dallas Goedert, 38 receptions, over 400 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. Jack Stoll, 3 targets, 2 receptions, and 10 yards. So, it does take away a bigger, part of the offense for the Eagles. All right, prediction time. Adam, what do you think? We talked last week. You've had another week. Now it's game day. What do you think happens tonight?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth about this about 20 times now, who I thought was going to win the game. So if you come back to me in another couple hours, I'll probably have a different answer for you. But right now I'm thinking the Chiefs. I feel like given their problems in the passing game, they've still got enough. The Eagles are beat up a little bit in the secondary. They haven't been very good without it. I feel like if the Chiefs can come close to approaching their effectiveness in limiting Philadelphia's pass rush like they did in the Super Bowl, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I'll take it something like 24-20, somewhere in that neighborhood.
All right, we got you down. Adam Teicher from ESPN joining us here in the Zone Chiefs Insider. Adam, great stuff as always. Very much appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the game. Stay dry, and we will talk next week.
All right, good stuff, Jason. We'll talk to you then.
All right, there's Adam Teicher from ESPN. He is presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you, available at an awesome price, featuring savory soups, crisp salads, and a variety of sandwiches to satisfy your every craving. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. And, the explosive plays for the Eagles, the pass rush for the Eagles, can the Chiefs limit those? It was A.J. Brown in the Super Bowl when he went up against Trent McDuffie, and the expectation is, okay, will L'Jarius Sneed be following and traveling with A.J. Brown? Is it going to be Trent McDuffie with Devontae Smith? We'll see tonight, but we know it was Trent McDuffie on A.J. Brown and the deep touchdown pass that we saw in the Super Bowl. So how the Chiefs are able to combat that and even limit that, because that's the difference this year for the Chiefs defense, is the explosive plays that they are allowing. If we look at the explosive pass plays for the defense, passing plays of 20 or more yards, the Chiefs have given up 21 this year, which is the second fewest in the NFL. Total explosive plays, that's rushing plays of 10 or more yards and passing plays of 20 or more yards, the Chiefs have given up a total of 40, which is the second fewest in the NFL. Per game, 4.4, which is the third fewest in the NFL. So they have limited and sometimes even eliminated the explosive plays that we saw at times hurt them, and especially what the Eagles have been doing with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. So we'll see what happens with this defense. Can they step up? And then for all the talk about the running game for the Chiefs, and you need to get the running game going a little bit more, run the ball with Pacheco. Well, that Eagles defensive line, Jalen Carter, has been an absolute beast, and it might be tougher to run the ball tonight against the Eagles. Tonight may not be the night where you go, why don't they just run the football? Tonight may not be the night on short yardage situations where you go, just run the football. Just run it straight ahead. That may not be the case. Sometimes personnel can dictate what you want to do on those particular downs and distances. So we'll see what ends up happening tonight. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Field Yates joins us at noon. Mick Schaefer, 1 o'clock. More Zone on this Monday edition right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. Thank you to Adam Teicher from ESPN, Chiefs Insider joining us. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. Field Yates from ESPN. Get his thoughts on this great matchup coming up tonight. Super Bowl rematch, or is it a Super Bowl preview? Which is it? Are they rematching, or are we getting ready for what's going to take place in Vegas in February?
It's a pre-match.
Love it.
It's a rematch preview.
Yes.
Preview rematch?
Preview, yeah. So I like the pre-match.
It's a pre-match.
Appreciate that a lot. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810 as that game coming up tonight. You can continue to listen to live pregame coverage all day. Latest news, interviews, analysis, Sports Radio 810 WHB, all brought to you by Intrust Bank and Greenlight Dispensary. Greenlight Dispensary, outstanding customer service, superior product, and continuously voted Missouri's best. Open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Find a location near you today at greenlightdispensary.com. And Intrust Bank, they believe that relying on timeless values makes them one of the most contemporary banks in the business. Intrust Bank, banking built with values. We appreciate them as part of our Chiefs and Eagles lead-up coverage right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And, of course, the pregame show will be coming your way later on this afternoon on Into the Game. And then the postgame show hosted by this guy right there.
We'll be coming to you way after
That's right.
the game. I mean, not way after the game, but way after this show and the pregame show and program. It's gonna be late night, and we're gonna bring the energy, and then we're gonna have just a mail-in effort on Tuesday.
You will. I mean, I'm going to bring the energy tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, because
I'm saving up my energy after the game is over tonight for tomorrow. You're expending all of that energy tonight. I get it.
You go into the coffin as soon as the final score and just sleep like a vampire.
Is that right?
And I might just sleep at the desk. I don't know. The Border Patrol may have to move me over to that chair. You know what? I'll be considerate. I'll go to the corner chair, and so hopefully they can just do the show around me. And Dylan, I don't know. I don't know what. You see Micah Parsons talking about never doing pre-workout before a game again because it made his heart flutter. Dylan and I are going to be in either Micah Parsons mode or Mike Parsons mode.
You're going to be Willie Mays Hayes. You're going to wake up, and you're going to be in your bed outside on the deck.
This is going to be a cold, wet night to do that. This might not be the one to experiment with.
Wake up, I got fired already?
There's I can't believe we haven't gotten to a point where anyone's like lost a bet and had to just camp out there for a night. Like I feel like that should be on the table and then on the balcony. I'm willing to entertain that.
Interesting.
If I lose a bet before Chiefs Patriots it's gonna start getting colder too. This is a bet.
It's rough.
Let's table this one until 2024. We may have missed our window for the balcony bet.
The loser of the ZOUs, instead of buying lunch, you got to sleep out there on the balcony. I don't like that as much as because I don't get to enjoy some lunch, or other people don't get to enjoy some lunch when we got the ZOUs.
Here's what we could do, Jason. We could get a little webcam out there and just live stream that very, very cold night for somebody.
No.
We're talking about late. Will the ZOUs be finalized at the end of the regular season? They will, right?
For the Chiefs, we can do final ZOUs in January.
Yeah, you spend the night on the balcony in January. We'll live stream it, and we might see Mick just jump.
Royals ZOUs would be in October.
That's doable.
So
that's doable right there.
Could
That's
be just
fine.
fine.
That's fine.
Be just fine.
And I'll tell you what, I'll take a deferred punishment payment if that's the payoff.
It's Bobby Bonilla just
yes.
deferred. You are if you don't do it during the winter, you actually have to do 2 nights during the summer.
Or you have a certain number of hours, and you can look, all right, fine, I'm going to burn 2 hours on this Friday. I'll just work out there during the program. We'll just be in a little deck chair.
Remember when everybody was having the Waffle House challenge?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So it's sort of like that. You got the hours out there that you can then use at different times.
And if you live stream it, it counts for twice as many hours. There's your ratio.
Very good. 913-912-4810. This Chiefs offense and the Chiefs. I want to look at the Chiefs defense. We talked about that with Adam Teicher. We looked at the offense, and that's been much discussed. But how good the Chiefs defense is. One of the things that the Eagles offense has been so good at throughout the years are the explosive plays, the 10 or more yards rushing, or the 20 or more yards passing, 20-plus yard passing plays, 10-plus yard rushing plays. And what the Chiefs defense is doing this year as opposed to years past. The Chiefs defense, rushing defense, in giving up explosive plays, They have given up a total of 19 explosive run plays, 10 or more yards. That is the 12th most in the NFL, or 12th fewest. They're ranked 12th. So 12th fewest in the NFL. Or is it the 12th? No, it's 12th fewest. Yeah.
They've got a relatively high yards per carry on relatively low yardage and carry numbers.
So the running explosive plays have been there at a much higher clip than the passing explosive plays. So passes of 20 or more yards so far this year, the Chiefs have given up only 21 of those. That is the second fewest in the NFL. So while they are 12th in rushing, easier to pick up 20-yard passing in today's NFL than, the rushing of 10 or more yards. But they've given up the second fewest of the passing plays of 20 more yards. Now, if you look at percentage, so it's like who's, passing the ball a lot more, they're actually fifth in that category. They have the fifth lowest percentage of 5.9% of passing plays are a pass of 20 or more yards. So it's fifth. The Eagles this year defensively are 10th. They're at over 7%. I should point out that the rushing percentage, the Chiefs come in 17th at that.
That seems about right.
So we'll see what happens tonight in the rushing game. But that's the part of the Eagles is that, the Eagles aren't just a team that's going to run. They've got the explosive plays with Devontae Smith, with A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts throwing the ball, pushing the ball down the field. It's one of the things that they do. No Dallas Goedert is a big difference because, as I had mentioned with Teicher there, that the backup tight end has 3 targets and 2 receptions this year for a total of 10 yards. Quite the difference of the 40 receptions and 400 yards and 2 touchdowns for Dallas Goedert. Okay? Massive difference there. So you are taking one of their playmakers, one of their bigger offensive weapons off the field in Dallas Goedert. You still have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But the offensive explosive plays, when you're looking at passes of 20 yards or more, the Chiefs had the most in the NFL last year with 73. Wow. That would have been a surprise to me. Yeah. It's not air yards. Yeah. It's just passes that end up being 20 yards or longer. They had the most last year with 73. Right now, they have the 19th most. They are pacing for 54. That is more than one less 20-yard or explosive passing play per game. That's pretty damn massive in the NFL. If you're taking a 20-yard pass away every single game, maybe that's a 3rd and long. Maybe that's you're at the 40-yard line, now you're down to the 20. And it's the difference between kicking a field goal or scoring a touchdown on a drive. The difference between punting or scoring a touchdown on a particular drive. The Eagles last year had the second most behind the Chiefs.
Really?
Yes.
Both of those surprised me.
At 63. The Eagles are pacing for 60 this year. While they're down a little bit, they're still pacing for almost the same amount, even with Jalen Hurts and his knee, bothering him and being an issue over the last few weeks. How much is that an issue tonight? I think that's going to be a big part of it because is he wearing the brace? Is he wearing the sleeve? He was clearly a different player the last few weeks running the football. He was hobbled. He would limp back to the huddle. He wasn't keeping it as much. There were fewer designed plays, run plays for Jalen Hurts. He was still destroying from the pocket. But if now you can throw in a healthy knee, that becomes even more of a concern for the Chiefs. But there's no doubt that the Chiefs' explosive plays, defensively, they have been much better at limiting those and getting off the field and not giving up those big plays. And offensively, they are just not seeing those happen at near the clip and pacing for almost 20 fewer this year than a year ago of 20 or more yards passing.
To stick with that defensive side and just what we've seen from them in 2 of these last 3 games, that Broncos game was frustrating. It was not because the Broncos offense was incredibly explosive. We all know this. But the Chargers and Dolphins are a couple of teams that do feast on those chunk plays. Like that Joshua Kelly run would have been amongst them, I suppose. And,
right, yeah.
And that was not the, first quarter, we got a game type of chunk run. But they were still unhappy with it, and that's still totally fair. But when you look at teams like the Chargers and Dolphins that have a number 1 wide receiver in Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill respectively, that have running games or an extension of their running game with all the things that Austin Eckler does, they just not only did the Chiefs handle that well, they didn't seem stressed by it. Not just like demeanor wise, but in terms of like physical stress. It never felt like the Chiefs defense was about to break. It never felt like they were bending that much. That's the part, even as a full-on Chiefs defense believer I'm just doubling down until eventually 1 week maybe they'll give up a 25th point and I'll have to stop using that 24-point cutoff that still isn't even really their own fault. But this Eagles offense, I want to say, well, this is a new test. I mean, they've got a really good running game, and they got a quarterback who, at least when at his healthiest, is a huge threat with his own legs, who is an excellent quarterback in the pocket. They have so many weapons. But to some extent, we have seen the Chiefs pass that test. We saw them pass it against Justin Herbert. We saw them pass it against the Dolphins in Germany. I think we're going to see them pass it. Maybe it's not with straight A's, but I think we're going to see them pass that test again tonight, because at this point, what would have you arguing to the contrary? I don't have a great answer for that.
The passing part of it, though, when you look at the offensive side, and what I brought up with Adam Teicher there when we were discussing the offense and things that he would like to see, and he said, look, I expect to see a more efficient passing game. I expect to see a better looking, more fluid passing game. We'll see tonight with the rain and things like that. And what I mentioned there at the end of that segment with Adam Teicher of the, hey, just hand the ball to Pacheco, run the ball more. Probably not against this defensive front.
Yeah.
Like, Jalen Carter has been as advertised. Yep. He has been awesome. In fact, I believe he is the number one defensive tackle in pass rush win rate, and he's a rookie.
Yep.
He hasn't been double-teamed as much as Chris Jones and things like that. He's had his fair share of double teams, but he's winning. He's been really good. He's been as advertised, and against the run, he's pretty good as well. So tonight might not be the night where you go third and short, just hand it off right up the middle. Well, tonight might be the night where you go third and short. All right, let's get in our bag. Let's get in the bag. Let's do some things a little different. Maybe not the tush push against the Eagles, because that front is pretty stout. But as far as passing the ball, and one of the things I brought up with Adam Teicher, and that Matt Nagy said on Friday that they're still taking their shots. Like they're still going downfield. They're still doing the same things they were in the past, and that's there and all of that stuff. And I just have to take advantage of those things. And coaches can lie, and it's just part of it. And I don't think he was going to say, yeah, we aren't throwing it deep. We're just not doing that. You're right. We aren't throwing it nearly as far down the field as we were other teams, and that's because we've got this issue and that issue and this issue and that issue. So you definitely should not respect the deep ball. The Chiefs have to find a way to make them respect the deep ball. But the number that I brought up with numbers with Adam Teicher that I brought up, the average completed air yards and the intended air yards. So difference between the air yards that the ball is in the air when it gets to the receiver versus how far the ball is in the air when it's completed. Average completed air yards, Mahomes this year, out of 37 quarterbacks, ranks 33rd. The intended air yards this year, Mahomes, out of 37 quarterbacks, ranks 32nd. He is almost a full yard less this year than a year ago in intended air yards. That's not doing the same thing that you've been doing in the past, and we're taking our shots, and we're doing those things. We just have to be a little more efficient. We got to complete those, because that's intended. That's not, the complete. What about the ones that were incomplete? Yeah, the 4.3, the completed air yards. Yeah, that's down by 1.1 yards more, less than a year ago. They were at 5.4 last year, at 4.3 this year. And that's without Tyreek Hill, by the way. That's year to year.
Yep.
No Tyreek Hill to no Tyreek Hill. The only difference really being Juju.
Juju out, Rashee Rice in, two Sky Moore.
5.4 down to 4.3 in completed air yards, but it's the intended air yards. That's a full yard less than a year ago. You're not throwing it as deep. That's a pretty significant number. 1 yard is a lot when you get into these differentiating factors in the NFL. Now, some of that is also the league overall is,
but that's
is
why his
different.
standing in the league is interesting.
Exactly, because him just he's completed air yards of 5.2, and he's ranked 30th. Oh, because it was different.
Right.
No, he's ranked 33rd.
Yeah.
And 32nd in intended air yards. Nagy can present it any way he wants of, we're doing the same things. We're just need to be more efficient at that. We're not completing those, but we are taking our same amount of shots and things like that. There's a clear difference in the offense this year than a year ago, and the numbers back it up with the fewer 20-yard, explosive plays, and the air yards being down a full yard from a year ago.
And it's the perfect companion for what our eyes have also been seeing all year.
Yeah.
Because if you could give all of those stats just from from ground zero or whatever, and I could say, oh, okay, so like if you told me those stats before the season began, and I was like, and you're like, hey, explain what the offense looks like with all of those stats, I could say, oh, okay, well, Sky Moore really is playing Juju's role, and Rashee Rice is getting a lot of run out of the slot, and he's a lot of the intermediate stuff, and so they're just dinking and dunking and using these guys until they all get comfortable, and that's not the story. It's not that Kadarius Toney has so many pop passes that his average intended target comes down. It's not that it's been effective playing that way. It has been shortened and less explosive, and it plays that way also. This is not a comfortable offense. If the numbers like that were all worse because aggressive is more fun, at least. Yeah. If all of those numbers were more conservative, but the offense was moving the chains 2 plays at a time and 5-yard chunks at a time, all right. The story would be Mahomes, even another level of his evolution and taking what the defense is giving him, and opposing defenses are still really respecting the deep ball, so stuff's open underneath, and none of that is happening either. So if Matt Nagy thinks he's telling the truth, or if he knows that he's lying, either way, you have to, lying at a podium is different than lying about, whatever. But podium lying, coach speak lying.
Right.
Either
inflating
way,
some of the what our eyes and some of the numbers are saying.
Yes, either way, this hasn't been working, and I just want to know that they know why. And I'm not sure that they do right now.
Yep. One other, and then we'll take a break. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. The area that I do think there's a level of improvement that can take place when we talk about the wide receivers, guys on the same page, catching the ball, some of the drops that took place. Patrick Mahomes is 9th in completion percentage this year in the NFL. He's number 1 in expected completion percentage. It's the first time in his career that he's been in the top 10 of the difference between expected and actual completion percentage. He's never ranked in the top 10 before. And he's in the top 10 this year of the difference between what his actual completion percentage is and what his expected completion percentage is. He's 9th in overall completion percentage, and he's number 1 in what should have been. I mean, he's almost 70% of expected completion percentage this year. Unbelievable. So that's where it can improve.
And he's also not a guy who's taking every safe throw. Like that we've probably seen an inverted version of that in years past. Oh, my heart.
Yeah, actually in 2018, his expected completion percentage was lower than his actual completion percentage.
Because he was out there slinging that thing.
That's exactly right. Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's a guy that's lower.
Interesting.
Guys make plays for him.
Yep.
I mean, that's also part of it. Like, if guys aren't going up and making plays, well, that wasn't expected to be a completion. Well, it was. Why? Because A.J. Brown went up and did that.
Yeah, because A.J. Brown is the receiver. So.
Devontae Smith went up and did that. That was supposed to be a completion. Why wasn't it? Well, because Kadarius Toney dropped the ball.
Yep.
Well, MVS dropped the ball. Yep. Well, Sky Moore dropped the ball. Well, yeah, it's not a drop, but it should have been a completion where the ball was placed into that guy. But technically, we won't count it as a drop because it wasn't in a certain spot, but it was still an expected completed pass. Like when you get into some of the advanced numbers, you start to see some of the difference that a true number 1 playmaking wide receiver can make just even on having a higher completion percentage than what your expected completion percentage is. Like, you got guys out there making plays for you, and Mahomes doesn't have that right now. He doesn't, and that's where it can improve. Yeah, that's the part of it where it's like, okay, intended air yards and completed air yards, are they going to change what the offense has been so far? Or defense is going to change what they've been doing? Probably not. But can you become more efficient as an offense if guys are simply catching the ball that are expected to catch the ball along the way? Hopefully that happens. And that's been a big part of, okay, fundamentals, take a step back, continuity, guys being on the same page, trusting the guys will be there. We'll see tonight, because the Eagles have been known to give up some passing yards. That's why they went out and got Byard at the trade deadline, because they needed help there. They are phenomenal against the run, They have had their struggles against the pass. This is one to where you would really like the Chiefs to come out and show that the second half is going to be much better passing than it was the first half. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. Field Yates coming up at noon. Make sure for 1 o'clock. More Zone next. All right, wrapping up the hour here. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. We will hang out with Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour, learn funniest best. A lot of stuff still to get into around this Chiefs and Eagles game coming up tonight. We spent the first segment and a half or so talking about the Sunflower Showdown, Mizzou, Florida over the weekend as well. Some college football we discussed. We'll get into some more of that as well with the great game that took place there in Lawrence. K-State coming out on top, but KU and K-State, that gap closed. I mean, moving forward, we'll see what the record will be between Kleiman and Leipold now that it certainly seems like there's some even ground that these two teams are on, and KU probably feeling like, not even probably, definitely feeling like they should have won that game and let that one slip away. So we'll talk about that as well. But Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider, he joins us next here in the Zone.
He'll help you fantasy focus while he scoops the news. He's on TV more often than he's in bed. He'll break down the NFL without a single hair ever out of place. It's Field Yates of ESPN. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, let's talk to our NFL insider from ESPN, Field Yates, our guest right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Field, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I am doing great, Jason. What a big day we have on tap. Of course, the game of the regular season is just hours away. I will never forget, Jason, the NFL schedule was announced in May. It was at that time that I was filling in for Laura Rutledge on NFL Live and some of our special NFL programming, and we unveiled the Monday Night Football schedule live on one of our programs, and we felt like we had hit the lottery by getting Chiefs-Eagles Monday Night Football, and it feels a little different now, right? There are some games that looked great in the preseason that now not so much. This one looks just as advertised. It is perhaps the game of the season.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times, like in years past, you know, we've talked about like Monday Night Football doesn't have some of the marquee matchups that we're used to seeing. But, you know, last year, the last Monday Night Football game of the year was the Bengals-Bills game. It didn't end up happening because of what took place on the field. But that was a massive buildup to that game, and then tonight as well. So there have been a couple of some Monday Night Football games, and it's like, okay, this is kind of what I remember of the big lead up and Monday Night Football, the huge, all my rowdy friends are here on Monday night, and that hasn't really been the case. But tonight, that will absolutely be the case. I want to get your thoughts on Chiefs-Eagles here in just a little bit, but there is news that came down just a little bit ago, and that is the New York Jets have named Tim Boyle as their starting quarterback for Friday's Black Friday game against the Dolphins. The unofficial end of the second go-around in the Zach Wilson era post-Aaron Rodgers, that finally Robert Saleh was like, okay, we can't just continue doing this and losing games. We got to make a move and try to do something here because 4-3 is now 4-6.
Yeah, 4-3 has gone to 4-6 in a hurry, Jason. And trivia: how many touchdowns have the Jets scored on offense during these last 3 games? It's not many. The answer is 2 in total. They've got 4 touchdowns over the last 6 games on offense. They've been just as prolific scoring on defense and special teams as they have offensively for much of this season. And this is the old saying, right? What's the definition of insanity? It's trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And look, there's no two ways about it. The Jets had a nasty deck dealt to them with 4 plays into their season, losing Aaron Rodgers. But part of the reason why I think the NFL is going to look different in future years is that this year has reminded us, Jason, that backup quarterback is more valuable than ever. I've heard a lot of different theories as to why the NFL offensive production is down. And I will continue to come back to players like Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Wilson and Tommy DeVito starting games for teams that, at least in the case of Cleveland and New York, have elite defenses that should be good enough to keep you competitive most weeks. But the Jets have reached their threshold. It was time. I can't promise that Tim Boyle will do anything, Jason, to really make this a whole lot better. But I think this is less about the idea that Tim Boyle has more talent than Zach Wilson. It's more about the idea that if you go into that locker room every day and continue to tell the guys, yeah, we're going with the guy who's been terrible for the entire season, you risk losing the locker room and having your other messages about everything else falling on deaf ears. So the Jets made a change that I think was frankly necessary, and being someone from the Northeast, I've got many Jets friends in my life, and they may not be celebrating today, Jason, because they are now 4-6, but they're at least feeling a little bit better than they did going into yesterday's game when they felt hopeless going up to Buffalo.
Yeah, the whole talk and waiting and seeing and paying attention to the rehab of Aaron Rodgers could, completely be moot in a couple of weeks as they sit 4-6, a couple of games out of the final playoff spot. And if he returns in late December, I mean, they've got Miami twice and Houston before, that late December, games of Christmas Eve. So probably will not matter.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, my sense, Jason, is that it's going to be whatever Aaron Rodgers feels like doing, right? He's the franchise quarterback. He, in some places, the general manager, right? I mean, the Jets lit about $15 million on fire this offseason by signing Aaron's friends between Alan Lazard, who's been terrible, and Randall Cobb, and he's a healthy scratch, and Dalvin Cook. They got $7 million there because Aaron wanted him as well. He's been terrible. It might be more like $20 million. He may want to come back and play because he wants to, and if he wants to, I'm sure the Jets will let him. But if they're 4-7 after this Friday, which I think is very possible, and they're something like 6-8, 6-9 by the time he's ready to come back, my response to Aaron, if I were the Jets, would be, why risk this?
Yeah.
Why bother risking this whatsoever? We are worried about 2024, not a couple of games at the end of 2023.
Yep. Field Yates is our guest from ESPN. Another backup quarterback that'll be playing the rest of the way is John Browning for the Bengals. Surprising news that Jake Browning, sorry. Well, John, Jake, either way.
That tells you how anonymous
exactly.
he was prior to this past week. Yeah,
absolutely. And I didn't even do that on purpose. Jerry Browning is going to be playing the rest of the way for the Bengals, apparently. For the Cincinnati.
I just wanted to let you guys know here, John Browning, according to Wikipedia, invented or made significant improvements to single-shot, lever action, and pump-action rifles and shotguns.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He passed away in 1926.
Yeah, he had a rifle for an arm, is what he did, and that's what I was thinking of.
There we go.
A guy could just
Bengals
fire.
Quarterbacks, red rifle. Hello, it's all in there, Jason.
That's exactly right. That's what it is. It's all bouncing around in some way, shape, or form there, Field. But it was genuinely shocking news on Friday during our show when Josh says, breaking news, Joe Burrow is out for the year. One, I mean, it is massive for the Bengals. It ends any thought of them doing anything this year, whether it be even making the playoffs or not. And it's another year gone where they have an relatively inexpensive quarterback because that contract will start kicking in, and we'll see if Burrow, Higgins, and Jamar Chase are ever together again. The NFL is investigating. Have they gotten to the end? What do you think happens here with whether or not he was should have been on the injury report? He had whether it was a brace or he said a compression sleeve to keep swelling down from travel and being on a flight. What are you hearing with that with the Bengals and Joe Burrow, and now of course him being out for the year and what that does to this organization?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of fine being levied against the Bengals as an organization. I think that the reality is it's getting a lot of attention because it's Joe Burrow. I'm not trying to take them off the hook here. This stuff probably happens all the time, every week, Jason. But when the player walks off the plane with an apparatus on his hand, certainly suggests there's something going on there. And when you're a quarterback, that's fairly fundamental to your profession. But it's a huge blow to them on the field. I think that there are various sort of ways to measure teams in the NFL. And when you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you played in the Super Bowl 3 out of the past 4 years and you won last year, you're kind of looking at it like, is this team good enough to make a deep run in the playoffs now? And you can call the Cincinnati Bengals no longer that, right? I mean, I just can't imagine this team offensively being nearly potent enough with Jake Browning, who had not thrown a pass in the NFL prior to this season, under center the rest of the way. And the difference between Cincinnati and somebody like Cleveland, as an example, or the Jets, is that while they're good on defense, they're not elite like those two teams are, right? I mean, Cleveland is just devastatingly good on defense, and the Jets the same way, despite what happened yesterday up there in Buffalo. So Cincinnati, I think the tenor of their season has just changed dramatically. Now, the window is going to be open. Joe famously said, the window is my career in Cincinnati, and he has a very good point there. When you have an excellent quarterback, you've got a chance to be a consistent contender. That being said, Cincinnati's 2023 campaign, one that they came into thinking they could be the big dogs in the AFC, that is no longer the case. This team is thinking, at least in my mind, about 2024 and beyond.
It's not to where the organization will do this or Zach Taylor will, even contemplate this, but this is from the outside looking in. If I'm the Bengals, I'm tanking. and late game decisions that may or may not result in wins, or I'm going for this, or maybe I kick a field goal here and I maybe go against analytics because you're not winning the Super Bowl this year. So what's the point? The last time Joe Burrow missed, the season because of an injury, they got Jamar Chase. Picking 20th because you go and win a few games as opposed to picking 9th, it can be, franchise changing because you're picking top 10 in every single round. It's not just the first round; it's every single round. It's never going to happen, obviously, with the Bengals. But if tanking was more widely accepted, then it would definitely be something that I would be doing if I was in the Bengals organization. I would just have to hide it because I don't want to fine and I don't want to lose draft picks by doing
it. Yeah, I hear you, Jason. You make all the right points. It's one of those things that sounds a whole lot better in concept than it does in practice. Right. It's just,
absolutely.
It's never going to happen. It happens to a degree in other sports, but that's when a team who's maybe at the Commanders level right now would just say, you know what?
Yeah.
Let's actually find our way towards the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Cincinnati has too much talent on the roster to be considered. I mean, they cannot win the Super Bowl in my estimation, but can they beat the rudderless offensive Steelers team this upcoming weekend? Yes. So there is a lot of logic behind what you just said, even if I think that the chances of that happening are about as good as the chances of the Bengals turning to me at quarterback. But I hear you. Yeah, because you got to figure. I mean, if you're Cincinnati, even if the things were not going great this year, how many top 10 picks do you project them to have over the next decade?
Not many.
Or maybe even the 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk 5 years. I hate getting too far ahead of myself. But, the idea would be that you're not picking the top 5. You're picking closer to the bottom 5 of the round every year. So this might be one of your rare opportunities to actually collect some talent, but I'm almost positive, if not totally certain, that Cincinnati will, of course, very much stay towards the competitive mindset.
Yeah, I mean, if they end up with the 8th or 9th pick and they trade up and get Joe Alt with the number 5 or 6 pick, how much different than you move Orlando Brown to right tackle where he's probably a better player and you got one of the best left tackles.
That ain't happening.
I know.
Hey, Orlando's not letting that one happen.
I know. Just speaking in theory of building an organization, how much better is that Bengals team, even if you don't have T. Higgins, if you got tackles like that and Chase and Burrow and it's massively different. But hey, I want them to make the playoffs, quite frankly. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the Chiefs perfect.
Yes.
You don't want them to get John Kidd in the line, right? John
No.
Alt, who I think that Joe Alt, maybe there should be some sort of rule that if he doesn't go in the first 5 picks, he automatically has to go to the Chiefs. Just
Done.
for the rule of cool, right?
I appreciate that.
Just to continue the legacy in Kansas City.
I appreciate that. I've heard there are really massive off-the-field red flags with Joe Alt. Yeah, I'm making all of that up.
Totally. Of course, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard he actually, he hates dogs. He hates puppies. I heard that's a serious concern for Joe Alt, and he would only live within 2 hours of the Ozarks. That's the only place regionally he would ever consider calling home in the NFL.
That's right. I've heard that he pictures puppy dog faces on defensive ends when he just dominates them. It's sad, really, but I would have to live with that if he was playing left tackle for the Chiefs. I'd find a way to get over it. Field Yates, a circus from ESPN. The Miami offense, what's going on with that? 17 against Philadelphia and a defensive score. They score 31 against New England, but then they have 14 against the Chiefs, shut out in the first half, 20 against Vegas, and only 2 field goals in the second half. Is there has the league figured out the Miami offense, or what are you seeing as to why this thing is dried up?
I think this is a question that we've asked back-to-back years now, right? It'll be interesting, Jason, because I looked at their schedule the rest of the way, and, anything can happen in the NFL. That's part of what makes this league so great. But this feels like a real, 12-win or more type season for Miami. The schedule was not that difficult down the stretch. They had probably a tougher, road to begin the season and in the middle of the season. But I think that they'll be fine. But the question for Miami is going to be when the rubber meets the road in the playoffs against good defensive teams in the AFC. You know that if it's Cleveland, Baltimore, maybe Buffalo, I'm not totally certain there. I think certainly Kansas City, those are 3 of the top whatever number of contenders in the entire conference that are good on defense, that will find a way to challenge you a little bit. Watching the game yesterday, I always hate to sound a little bit like the old man who just yells at the clouds. But the balance, they ended up running the ball 22 times with Raheem Mostert yesterday, but felt a little bit one-dimensional yesterday, even with Tyreek having the one big shot down the field. But more than anything, Jason, it kind of felt like if it wasn't Tyreek, who was scaring you in the offense yesterday? Because with no Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle is a really, really good player, but he hasn't been nearly as productive this season as he was last. So I do think Miami is still very, very, very capable and potent offensively, just maybe not quite to where they were early on in the season. And it's kind of like a pitcher going through the batting order again, right? It's like you got to kind of figure out how much of this is the guy having pure stuff and how much of it is, all right, I just haven't seen that kind of stuff before. Give me an extra at bat and I'll figure it out. That's a big test for Miami over the next few weeks.
Field Yates from ESPN, I guess. All right, Super Bowl rematch or Super Bowl preview for you with tonight's game at Arrowhead?
Both. I guess technically both, right? I refer to it as a Super Bowl preview, though, just with the way they are playing. Philly's schedule is very difficult over the next few weeks. But, they're 8-1. They built a buffer, right? I mean, a 2-game lead over Dallas with a game in hand as well because of the head-to-head matchup. That certainly helps. But I can't wait for this one, Jason. And, a few weeks ago we had the Kansas City and Miami matchup where we thought, fireworks, bombs away. We'll see what it looks like. That could be the case tonight. When it wasn't, obviously it was not bad in Germany. It was very much the grinded out win, 21-14, 21-17, 17-14, whatever the final score was. Yeah. But Philly this year has really struggled to stop closing passing games. Yeah. They have been dominant on the ground. They have been outstanding. No surprise when you've got about 700 pounds of Georgia defensive tackles in your starting lineup. But, that passing game has been a real vulnerability for that defense. And, they have allowed big plays. They've allowed consistent plays. I mean, name a quarterback, by the way. It's not like they've only played, Joe Burrow or something like that. Like, Dan Howell has torched them twice. Mac Jones torched them back in week 1. Like, quarterbacks that are either, question marks or, Mac Jones might not even be starting this week for the Patriots. I'd be surprised if he is at this point. Those kind of quarterbacks have gotten the job done against Philadelphia. So, if ever there's an opportunity for the Chiefs to kind of build some confidence in the passing game, perhaps that's what tonight presents. Both teams coming off of a bye, though, Jason, you're always mindful of the idea that extra week to prepare and make a week to look in the mirror as well. Yeah. Philadelphia has to decide, are we going to be able to tighten the screws defensively at all this year? The answer may be no. They've got a lot of guys that are very young. They're playing a lot of snaps. They've had some injuries, and Nakobe Dean included, who's now on IR. He's out. It is up the middle, a very, very inexperienced group, and the depth at cornerback is not where it was last year as well. So this could be a night for the Chiefs to score a bunch of points.
All right. Do you have a prediction? What do you think happens if a score comes to mind for you?
All right. I'm hopeful that this is an explosive, fun game. So I was a 31-28 Chiefs. It was 34? 35-34 in the Super Bowl? What was the Super Bowl score? Jeez, I need to work on my memory, Jason.
38-35.
38-35. All right. So not quite that, but close to it. So it should be a really fun one. And not to sound like a company mensch, but I'm fired up that ESPN gets to broadcast this one tonight because all the stakes are on the table tonight for this game between these two teams.
Absolutely. Field Yates, our guest from ESPN NFL Insider. Field, you're the man. Appreciate the time as always, brother. Enjoy the game, and we will talk next week.
Happy Thanksgiving, my friend, and we'll talk to you next week. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours as well. There's Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. And yes, as he said, company man, just getting the game on ESPN, some Monday Night Football. There have been a couple of these build-up game of the years that have ended up on Monday Night Football the last couple of years. But there was a long stretch to where it was Monday Night Football is getting some crap games. They're getting some bad games. And, the broadcast partners are at some point going to go, I'm not paying you all this money to keep getting some rough games. We got to change some of this, this process of how we're choosing games. But you got the Bengals, Bills last year, and then Eagles, Chiefs tonight out at Arrowhead Stadium. So a big Monday Night Football matchup. And I think a Super Bowl preview. We know for a fact it's a Super Bowl rematch, but I think a Super Bowl preview because the Lions have found ways to win some games. They don't play the Eagles this year. Eagles and Lions don't match up this year, unfortunately. That'd be pretty cool to watch. But they may match up in Philadelphia in late January. And I think I would go with Philadelphia on that. And right now, I'm not sure of the team that really scares you in the AFC for the Chiefs. I mean, I was asked last night on Sunday Sound Off, Josh, like, what team in the AFC scares you if you're the Chiefs right now? And my answer was, by default, the Ravens.
Yeah.
By default. But it's not that they necessarily scare you. It's just they would be the scariest of teams, which somebody can be the tallest person in a room doesn't necessarily make them tall.
Not exactly Wemby.
That's right.
Not
Yes.
a lot of Wembies in the AFC right now, which is amazing.
That's exactly right.
Because of how far the other contenders have fallen. It's another reason. I guess a post-game caller mentioned this. I don't remember if it was after the Dolphins game or the week before. I guess it would have had to been the Dolphins game. But about the Chiefs winning on the learning curve.
Yeah.
And being able to continue to win, hold their spot in the standings, and not fall apart. Obviously, it's been different reasons and different results for the Bills, who looked pretty good again yesterday. I don't think it's because they fired Ken Dorsey. I think it's because they play the Jets. I think the Jets are done with just sort of everything going on there. But it's been a good defense, so, it's also the Bills' offense was never really bad. It's just, I digress. The teams you expected to be real threats, like we said this leading up to the Dolphins game. We knew they had not beaten a good team yet, but I still think, hey, that speed and explosiveness is something to be feared. Well, the Chiefs held them to 14 points in Germany, and so I'm not shaking in my boots. The Ravens losing Mark Andrews is a big deal, and we've seen the Chiefs have a pretty good read on the Ravens over the last several years. I'm not super worried about a Ravens-Chiefs playoff game. I mean, good teams in a playoff game, one of those teams is going to win 25% of the time, a minimum, if you were going to play it out 1,000 times, but I haven't really seen the Ravens prove that yet. So all of a sudden you realize, I said on Sound Off last night, the Texans? Just kind of throw, because no one had said their name yet. Not that they just had their best effort. We actually saw picks from C.J. Stroud on Sunday, but that's what it's going to be.
If you had the over or something in that game, you're probably annoyed that there were 3 turnovers in the end zone for the Texans.
That could annoy. I could see that annoying someone if they did have the over. I would have no idea. I didn't have the over. I don't think Dylan had the over, so I'm guessing that none of us in this room did.
No, not at all. They'd be dumb to play the over in that game, even though, again, 3 turnovers in the end zone for the freaking Texans.
It's heartbreaking.
Not to mention the Cardinals getting down inside the 30-yard line multiple times, but being down by 5, deciding to go for it on 4th down. I think the expected points in that game might have been 50.
Yeah.
Where the actual points were
Your expected over
35
under. You nailed that one.
That, it wasn't frustrating at all. But
Doesn't sound like
who
it.
really cares? But yeah, Houston. Honestly, is Houston the second most feared? I mean, it would still be Buffalo because Josh Allen, and to me, it's Ravens and Bills. If we're looking at feared teams.
But it's Thanksgiving week, and we don't know who the
Right.
second best team in the conference is, and that's not because the Chiefs have been so great that they're clearly standing alone.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have had problems. We've spent more time talking about where the Chiefs are deficient than when they've been exceptional this year.
That's exactly right.
And they're at the top of the conference. And honestly, also, Eagles fans have been doing the same. Eagles media has been doing the same. The Eagles have been doing the same. This is a matchup of the 2 best teams in either conference who are both a little bit unhappy with how their season has gone. It's amazing.
And I do wonder about, the Dolphins' offense. That's what has been carrying them, or was carrying them at the beginning of the season. They scored 17 against Philadelphia, and one of those was a defensive score. So the offense scoring 10 against Philadelphia, 31 against New England. And even if we add some context and qualify it, they were at 24 until there were 2 minutes to go, and then they were running out the clock, and Waddle broke free. So they got to 31 in that game. But even if you take away the qualifier, they got to 31 against New England, 14 against the Chiefs, where they didn't score in the first half, and then 20 against the Raiders, in which the second half they had 2 field goals. In their last 2 games, they have gone a full half of football without scoring a touchdown.
Yeah. Which includes a bye week to tinker.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
if the Chiefs have one of those halves tonight, postgame's going to be unpleasant.
They scored 20 points, and the Raiders turned the ball over 3 times.
Yeah.
That should be to where the Raiders are shooting themselves in the foot, and the Dolphins are taking advantage, and they beat the Raiders, 35-13 because there were 3 turnovers. Well, the Dolphins turned the ball over 3 times. So now you're giving the ball back to the Raiders, but you scored 20 points in that game. Yeah, there's something going on with the Dolphins offense. And it's one of the reasons why I don't list them as, when it's the scariest team, to me, the Ravens. Could be the Bills, could be the Dolphins. They're just teams that have the ability in a one-game sample size to go, all right, how'd you let Tyreek Hill get loose twice?
Right.
Okay, Josh Allen went unbelievable, scorched earth Josh Allen divisional round playoffs 2 years ago, and he was just unbelievable and was throwing, dimes all over the place, and you lost that game and you tipped your cap. And boy, remember when they were struggling mid-season, right? One of those things. Yeah, they're certainly there, but it's almost by default you're trying to find somebody, whereas last couple of years it's Bills, Bengals. Boy, you better remember last year at this time, you better get the number 1 seed, because whoever doesn't get the number 1 seed is going to have to play the other 2 teams, both of them. You get the number 1 seed, you only have to play either or. Bengals had to play both. Guess what? Couldn't do it. Bills had to play both. Couldn't do it even one time. Chiefs only had to play one, and they took care of business, and they won that game and went on to win the Super Bowl. That's massive. And right now, they are the favorites to get the number 1 seed again, which, again, is still massive, because that bottom part of the standings, I mean, you're facing a team that isn't as powerful as we saw at one point. I mean, the Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs right now as the number 5 seed, and they've got DTR as
pretty
their quarterback.
Securely. They're in the playoffs as the 5 seed.
By 2 games. They're in the playoffs by 2 games right now. The Bills are 6-5. The Browns are 7-3. They got a 2-game lead on the playoffs to make that. Steelers sitting 6-4. And right now, the Bengals are the 11 seed. Yeah, Bengals are the would be the 11 seed right now, with the Chargers being the 13 seed if it went that deep. It ain't gonna happen. And this is the difference between what's the smart strategy versus what is reality.
Yep.
Bengals should be tanking and try to get as good of a pick as possible, because you're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. And the Bengals are in Super Bowl or bust mode. They are not in, let's just try to make the playoffs and see if we can get a win with Marvin Lewis as our head coach. Like, that's not the case anymore. It's trying to win a Super Bowl. They aren't doing it this year with Josh Browning or John or Jake or Jerry. Jason Browning.
It's messed up because they've got the Browns in the division, but it's actually Jim Browning.
What are the odds?
It's unbelievable.
Crazy.
I think that line of thinking is really interesting. If we're playing a Madden franchise, when your franchise quarterback gets hurt, you're hitting sim season and just hoping that you lose out. They're 5-5 right now, which is good for as you said, the 11th seed in the AFC. Wild. They get the Steelers, at the Jags, the Colts, the Vikings, at the Steelers, at the Chiefs, and the Browns again. There's 4 or 5 losses there. They're gonna probably the NFC is gonna make it hard.
Yeah.
But a couple of those games are going to be the difference between them picking 18 and 8th. I mean, if they just lose to the Steelers twice, if they lose to the Jags and the Vikings, they're going to find themselves with a pretty crummy record on their own, I think. And when you're losing T. Higgins in all likelihood, I'm sorry, Chiefs fans, but you're going to have a chance to actually lose some veteran pieces, and maybe it's not going to get you – they don't need one of the quarterbacks, obviously. It's not going to get you Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know how far Brock Bowers is going to fall.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, the Bengals offense is Jamar Chase and Brock Bowers around Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
That's annoying. Who let that happen?
And you would have a stud playmaker at a tight end position with a tight end contract as opposed to a wide receiver contract, which is what the Chiefs get with Travis Kelce, which is what the Bengals didn't have the luxury of if they want to pay T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. Yep. You're paying top-end wide receiver money versus top-end tight end money. That's another point to that. It's a really good point.
Forget I said that. Somebody else draft Brock Bowers, please.
And I mean, and we'll take a break, and I want to hear NFL Countdown tonight. Is it Jeremy Fowler?
Jeff Darlington.
Jeff Darlington sat down with Patrick Mahomes. We'll play a clip there. But what Field Yates said there when I was like, if you can trade up and get like a Joe Alt or something. And he's like, oh, no, Orlando's not moving to right tackle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, too bad, Orlando. Mm-hmm. Moved right. I can't imagine being held hostage by somebody who's playing at his lesser position, and you're going to draft somebody that could be a franchise player at that position, but the guy who's playing at his lesser position won't move to his better position because he wants to get paid, which he already did. Less money than he thought he was worth. The NFL told him what they thought of him. Like, no, you're moving to right tackle. Sorry. What are you going to do, hold out? You're going to get fined. Great, we don't have to pay you the money we just paid you. We're drafting our franchise left tackle, and you're moving to right. Sorry. Enjoy the money. Well, I want to be respected as a left tackle. That's what the money's for. Play your position. The position is right tackle. Juwan Taylor did it.
Maybe they should move Juwan Taylor to left tackle.
And he's getting more money than you. True. Take a timeout. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you to Field Yates. Let's hear from Patrick Mahomes. This is Jeff Darlington, not Jeremy Fowler, or anybody else at ESPN or Field Yates. This is Jeff Darlington. This will be the extended interview. Will be on NFL Countdown tonight, leading up to Monday Night Football. His sit down with Patrick Mahomes is about a 2.5. A little excerpt of what will be part of that interview and segment tonight on NFL Countdown.
You're playing a team that's 8-1 in the Eagles on Monday Night Football. How much does this provide a barometer for what you guys are?
Playing on Monday night, it's going to be about as close to a Super Bowl type feel that you can have playing against another great team that we just played in the Super Bowl last year. You'll get to see where we're at as an offense, as a defense, and as an entire team. The biggest thing is you see how guys respond under the lights, and I think that's what gets you ready for playoffs and Super Bowl games.
The attention on the Chiefs right now, does it feel any bigger than, say, winning the Super Bowl twice?
I don't think it feels any different. People see the whole Taylor Swift and Travis, and they make it a huge deal because it is a huge deal. I think it becomes a bigger deal to the fan bases than it does to the guys that are actually in the building. And I've been lucky enough to meet Taylor and see how good of a person she is. I think you understand why it's not become a distraction or anything like that, because everybody cares about being the best they can be every day. We'll see when we get to the off season. You know, maybe I'm like traveling to Europe to go to a concert or something.
What is your relationship like with Travis?
I honestly feel like he's my brother. I mean, I talk about his family and my family have almost become one family because the relationship that we have and how we've kind of became this brothers on the football field, but off the football field as well. He doesn't try to be this Travis Kelce Saturday Night Live guy. He just wants to be the guy that comes to play football every single day, and I think that's what makes him so special and why guys really gravitate towards him. We both love winning and we love competing, and I think that's what makes us have that same wavelength on the football field is we're going to compete to the very end.
How does that apply itself to the football field?
He sees the game like a quarterback. He just knows what I'm thinking back there when I'm playing the game and playing the quarterback position. I think it gives me the trust that I know he's going to change a route on the fly, and I know he's going to be in the right spot.
Tom Brady used to talk about using the regular season to find the identity of the team. But how much do you subscribe to that philosophy?
I think these last few years I've kind of got a better feel for that. You want to win every week is hard, and it's the NFL. Everybody can beat everybody. But you want to continue to build all season long. The goal is to be playing your best football going into the playoffs, and I think if we continue to just work at it, the offense will get it figured out, and the defense will be even better, and we'll have a chance to make a run at it.
We'll see. That's the hope, is that the offense gets rolling, defense continues to get better and better, and not only a chance to make a run at it, but the favorites to make a run at it. And obviously that relationship that is well documented between he and Travis Kelce. We'll see what happens tonight. If there's no Taylor Swift in attendance, right, because the concert got postponed from Saturday to tonight, unless there's another postponement or whatever, but still expect the parents to be in town and to meet and do all of that stuff. Does he have an even bigger night in front of the parents than he would Taylor Swift?
Wow,
I mean,
that's a great question.
Yeah. I mean, I've already lost my fantasy football matchup, and I'm going up against Kelce anyway, so it doesn't matter. He can have the biggest night of his life. I mean, I've already lost that thing, so no big deal. I don't have to root against him for a fantasy football purposes, root for the win, but against him, now I can root for him to have a dynamite game as well. That's the beauty of already losing. It's great.
You know, I think I can actually speak to this, Jason, because I'm realizing now I did tell the relatively new in-laws that I was going to be on Sunday Sound Off last night.
Yeah?
My parents weren't watching. Renee sure as hell wasn't watching.
Right.
So I don't know if I knew that my parents were also watching while the in-laws were. Maybe I don't know. Where did you feel like my performance was at last night, like a scale of 1 to 10?
It was about a 2.
I can live
Probably.
with that. I'm moving up at least. That's good. I'm stacking dubs, moving in the right direction.
When Renee was there, it was like an 11.
See, that's true. She
Out of a 10.
actually was in studio that one time. Maybe I really brought the energy then. You know what? I'm not sure. Travis Kelce 2 for 12. I mean, if Taylor's not going to be there, 2 for 12. Maybe 2 for 12 and a touchdown.
Yes,
but I cannot imagine he's going to have a very high volume day. Wow, this is devastating. I got to go see if I can cancel some bets.
You should, yes. That's right. Just go, and typically they let you do that. They just cancel bets. Oh, that was my mistake. Sorry. Can I get that money back?
By cancel
sure.
bet, I meant go make more good bets to offset my bad bets. So I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can liquidate any more assets to put on the Kadarius Toney over 7 yards, 1 reception.
which is what it's at. It was at 5.5 this morning and 0.5 receptions. Then it moved up to like 6.5.
And
still
0.5, yeah. So
still
one
0.5.
one
Moved
for
up a
7.
yard. Moved up a yard. You need 7 yards receiving. That's it for Kadarius Toney to hit on that.
Man, I wish I could put into words how desperately I feel like that should be an obvious slam dunk and how little confidence I have in it actually hitting. I want to bet on it again.
You'll be fine. Yeah, just keep doing that.
I think I'm just going to keep. I think every time I get nervous about it, I'm just going to put $10 more on it.
That's the smart thing to do.
I mean, you convinced me. I'm loading the app to do it now.
See? There
before
you go.
It gets any worse.
There you go. Speaking of parts of the broadcast tonight, you see the Manning cast. Caitlin Clark will be a part of the Manning cast tonight. We've talked about that before, that she's a big Chiefs fan, and her family and tradition and everything on Sundays get together, watch the Chiefs. So, yeah, she'll be a part of the Manning cast tonight. I'm not sure what quarter she'll be in.
I was actually looking. No, I was.
Okay.
That's actually how I saw that she was joining them. Is I thought, I wonder who the guests on the Manning cast are going to be, and then I saw that or I guess really early this morning, they announced that she would be on it. So I think she's the only guest confirmed right now. I imagine there will be 2 or 3 total.
Yeah,
I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah,
breaking news over the course of the show. I'll let you know.
The last time they had a Monday Night Football with the Manning cast was at the Giants. And then, it was Eli, and they had a bunch of Giants fans that came on.
Mahomes was on it. What was that, last Monday?
Mahomes was on it on Monday, but I mean like when the Chiefs played and there was a Manning cast. Yeah, the last Chiefs game where there was a Manning cast, because they've had a couple Monday Night Footballs where there weren't Manning casts because they don't do every single week.
Right.
But there will be one tonight. The last one I remember with the Manning cast was the Chiefs and Giants, I believe it was, because there were a bunch of Giants fans.
The only Giants Manning cast that's coming to mind right now is the one that included Tracy Morgan on it in one of the most memorable Manning cast experiences that I have ever witnessed. But I wouldn't have been watching the Manning cast for that wasn't Chiefs Giants.
Maybe it was something different. I don't know. I just have it on the when the Chiefs play on Monday Night Football. If there's a Manning cast, I have it on the other TV. If there's anything of interest, I may turn that up along the way. But probably won't do that tonight, just simply because this is a pretty big game. I'll be very much invested in what takes place between the hours of 7:15 and 10:15, 10:30, depending on that. There is sorry about that.
10:15 would be great.
There's a piece in the Wall Street Journal that was just released about Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
It is a very, very in-depth expose about Travis Kelce, his life, upbringing, a lot of information on the relationship with Taylor Swift from his words, interactions, things like that, being around her, Chiefs, retirement. A lot of that, some things that I definitely want to get into and read some excerpts from. But before we go to break, I think this is like 2.5, maybe 3 minutes. Brandon Staley last night. I didn't bring it up with Field Yates because there's plenty of time to do that. But I don't know if Brandon Staley will make it through the end of this year. Right now, they're the 13 seed in the AFC. They are in dead last, all alone in the AFC West. Here's Brandon Staley last night, and he gets a little defensive, a little chippy, not even a little, a lot defensive and a lot chippy. But here's the Q&A with the media of about 3 minutes or so with Brandon Staley and what could be one of his last post-game press conferences.
Yeah, we just we haven't found that rhythm consistently in the secondary. That's right now. I thought we did a really good job against the run in this game. I thought we rushed well enough to win. We weren't able to turn them over, and there's these plays that that really hijack our rhythm, in the passing game, and that's where we got to put our focus. That's where it's been, and until we get that solved consistently, you're going to continue to see results like today because there's a lot of good defense being played out there, but then you can't foul on 3rd and 20. You can't cut people loose. You can't miss tackles, and we got to play cleaner football. No.
The penalties on 3rd and extra longs, the 4th one you guys have had this year, the 6th one you've given up, 3rd and 15 plus this year overall. What is happening in those situations where you guys can't get off the field?
Just got to play with good fundamentals. They're going to throw a pass that's going deep, so we're connected in coverage, and you have to play with good fundamentals and not grab the guy. And it's as simple as that. We know that the routes are going deep. You need to be connected with them, which is what we were, and you can't reach and grab.
If the same thing keeps happening in this situation too. The logical takeaway is that some messaging is not getting home because obviously you're talking to the players every week.
Every week we're talking about fundamentals. Every week we show them the officiating videos. Every week we're talking about it. And so all we can continue to do is emphasize it. And I know that our coaching staff is doing that. We're not getting the execution on the field.
The defense has struggled all year, and getting back to when you got there, and you still haven't made any kind of significant changes. You keep saying the same things, doing the same things. You still, I guess, why?
I have full confidence, like I've told you, and like I've told you from the beginning, I have full confidence in our way of playing. Full confidence in myself as the play caller, in the way that we teach, and the way that we scheme. Full confidence in that. We got to bring this group together and do it consistently, okay? And that's where it's at. So you can stop asking that question, okay? I'm going to be calling the defenses, okay? So we're clear. So you don't have to ask that again.
The 35-yard completion of Wicks, it looked like Michael was there. What exactly happened?
Yeah, he wasn't. We weren't communicated well enough in that situation, and he turned him loose.
I think your fan base would hear full confidence, right, in everything that you're doing. When they see the product on the field, they would see a disconnect there. So why?
I'm not here to talk to the fan base. I'm here to talk to my players, the locker room. I know that we give ourselves a chance to win every single week with the game plans that we have, okay? And we have done it here. You guys act like we've never played good defense. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. You act like we haven't made any improvements. Today, in the run game, we played outstanding. We're rushing the quarterback well. What we got to do a better job of is in the passing game. And that's where our full attention is, and it's where it will continue to be. There were a lot of other things that caused us to lose today. It certainly wasn't our defense. It was the way we played as a team. We didn't play well enough on the red zone on offense. We dropped too many passes. Okay, we gave up a few killer sacks. Okay, we did this as a team. Stop making it about one unit, because that's not what happened out there today. Our team lost, and I am fully responsible for it, and I take full responsibility. But we lost as a team today, and that's the storyline.
So there you go, Brandon Staley. He's not giving up play calling duties. So quit asking.
Stop asking.
So quit asking. Not going to happen. Our defense didn't lose this game, damn it. They've lost plenty of other games, but not today. There were drop passes. We weren't good in the red zone. We had some issues, some turnovers. Don't you dare blame the defense. I am fully confident. And I'm not going to talk to the fans.
Not here to talk to the fans.
Not here to talk to the fans. I'm here to talk to my players. Oh, why don't you just talk to them in the locker room? Why are you here to talk to your players? I'm pretty sure this press conference area is actually talking to your fans. It's the media asking questions because those are the questions typically as the conduit of what the fans would want to ask and they want answers to. Like, why are you still calling the defense if that's an issue week in and week out? Are you going to give up play calling duties? No, quit asking. All right, there you go.
Now listen, Quentin Johnson had a tough drop, but he had some really good reps in training camp when he was going up against the Chargers defense. That might not have been the own I thought it was.
Well, at least they took him second out of all the wide receivers available in the draft this year.
I listened to that audio last night in a way that it now has a pattern and it follows a perfect predecessor, which is that I saw 5.5 minutes, clicked play and held the speaker of my phone up to my ear.
That's right.
And then just did that for 5.5 minutes, just like I did with Tyler from Spartanburg.
Tyler.
Coach is really going off for better, for worse, or for chaotic nature. Really, really good at making me just stick with that audio the whole way through.
Tyler from Anaheim. All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Mick Schaefer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. We've got some rings, or a ring. We'll also get you set with some predictions because I know people have been waiting with bated breath to see what we will predict. Maybe one of us will get it right, like the K-State and KU game. I don't know.
Listen, as far as I remember, only one of us had the courage to pick a Super Bowl rematch before this season began.
That's true.
So, I mean, there was a whole lot of Niners love, and I bet you guys feel stupid. They did what yesterday?
And they won.
Brock Purdy did what?
Oh.
I do think all of his pass attempts, all of his completions went to the stars of that group. But hey, when you got all those stars, that works out okay, I guess.
It does. It'll work out hanging out with Mick Schaefer. We got Learn Funniest Best as well. As we'll take a timeout, we'll come back, continue rolling. One more hour to go here on this Monday. Looking forward to the matchup tonight at Arrowhead.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, welcome in Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, here to the show for this final hour of this Super Bowl rematch preview, this pre-match for the Chiefs and Eagles. And, of course, big shout-out to our sponsors, the pre-match rematch preview between Chiefs and Eagles. You can listen to the live coverage throughout the day today. Latest news, interviews, analysis right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, brought to you by Intrust Bank and Greenlight Dispensary. Greenlight Dispensary, outstanding customer service, superior product, and continuously voted Missouri's best. Open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Find a location near you today at greenlightdispensary.com. And also at Intrust Bank, they believe that relying on timeless values makes them one of the most contemporary banks in the business. Intrust Bank, banking built with values. Will you two stop it? I mean, we can't take you guys anywhere. You're like children. I am sitting here trying to conduct business, trying to have a conversation with this nice gentleman right here, and you guys are acting like that in public. Never again. You do that again, and you're not going to come with me to the store.
Usually during your monologue to open every hour, we have time to do 30 to 40 things.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Dad.
Well, just don't let it happen again, okay?
Okay.
Don't apologize to me. Apologize to yourself. You look like a clown.
Sorry I let you down again.
I love clowns. I love them.
Oh, I have some balloon animals actually in my background. Let's go. How you doing, Mick? Long time no see.
I'm great.
Yeah.
How did you think Sound Off went last night?
We had
Blair was great.
A great guest on, Blair Kirchhoff, a Hall of Famer.
I'm glad you brought the professionalism with us. Like, you know what? Blair's going to be there. Oh, thank God.
Nick Jacobs on a Sunday. Sunday's our long day, right? We got to get through both shows. On the weekdays, I only get like a minute and a half for sports. The weekends, take 5 minutes.
Whoa.
And a 30-minute show, right? So a lot more time producing. And we set the schedule for the rest of the week. We do a meeting, and we set all that stuff out. And so it's a long, long day. But when he heard that Josh Brisco was coming on the show, no lie, he was like, his mood changed. He was so excited. He was like, I know it's going to be a hell of a show then. He said that word for word.
They even carpooled.
And you were, you wore that shirt that you had on?
Critter shirt.
Critter shirt,
yeah.
They carpooled together. So that was cool. Good for you guys.
It was like hanging out, you know.
I know that's a lie because Nick does not associate with, how do I say, people?
Right.
So,
well, maybe not. As
that's
far
what
as
keeps our relationship
But if he
so
did,
fresh.
you would be at the top of the list, Josh.
That really warms my heart. I appreciate that.
I'm
Nick
just
is a
like,
treasure.
you know what? I was just like Travis Kelce last night. I didn't even study for the test. All right? I just showed up, and I got a C without even studying.
Talent carried you.
Isn't that one of his tweets from back in the day? Too hype. I just got a C on my exam, and I didn't even study.
And right
just
after,
using common knowledge. Shout out Papa Kelsey for the genes.
What's the line? They don't like to give those. They don't like to give those grades out.
D
easily.
plus. They don't give out D pluses very often. Yeah, we heard that, man.
Yeah.
That's,
and my shirt had squirrels on them.
Yeah,
however you want to spell it.
bears and some cheetahs, something like that.
That. Yeah, dolphins.
Man, what an interesting weekend it has been. You get Travis Kelce tweets. You get Sunflower Showdown. You get a 4th and 17 with Luther Burden. You get a team losing to Jackson State. You get a fight that takes place between Providence and K-State. You get Nigel Pack showing that he's worth $500,000, dropping
basketball.
28. Other things happened over the weekend, too.
We go back to Friday night. Some other stuff happened.
Right. There's no instant replay. There's a lot of stuff that's taken place over this these last couple of days, man. It's great. And now there's a Wall Street Journal, very extensive expose on Travis Kelce, and gets very in-depth on a couple of things with him, including his relationship with Taylor Swift, and offering some unknown inside information that we hadn't heard before. So.
And he's talking about like his contract and like, you know what, it would be hard for me to negotiate because I would play for free. And it gets ugly when you ask for more money. He doesn't want to get ugly and unpleasant.
Yeah, he
what
said
a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
He's
said,
a pleasant son of a buck.
Yeah.
He talked about being underpaid as a tight end, said nothing to be done, he says flatly. Chiefs know, he says, that he would play for free. They know he loves the city. His quarterback, quote, unfortunately in this business, things got to get ugly. They got to get unpleasant if you want more money. And I'm a pleasant son of a buck. This from the author, Wall Street Journal, says, thank goodness for endorsements at this point, says his co-manager, Aaron Eanes. The NFL is just his side hustle.
Yeah, thank goodness for endorsements. Otherwise, he would have to live off $14 million a year.
But also,
in
a
single household,
the endorsements are more than $14 million per year right now. With all he's got, DirecTV and
that Pfizer ad.
Two things. It's Pfizer. Two things at once.
Paid for a lot.
Two things at once. I can play football and endorsements outside of the game. Two incomes at once.
And I would love to get a pass through those numbers again this upcoming off season. Just see where that's at. At that point, his NFL salary might be a tax write-off. Is that how that works?
But part of it also
might be like me doing radio.
It really is.
Yeah, side hustle.
Similar.
TV is your side hustle. That's right. But it also writes here, Trav never thinks about tomorrow. Trav never worries about retirement, despite recently turning 34 and making his golem in the NFL, whereas Kelce confesses he thinks about it nonstop. Let me read that again. Whereas Kelce confesses he thinks about it nonstop, retirement, more than anyone could ever imagine. That's the only thing I've never really been open about. The discomfort, the pain, the lingering injuries, the 10 surgeries I've had that I still feel every single surgery to this day.
Many people.
That he thinks about retirement more than anyone could ever
doing
imagine.
all this stuff more and more each year outside of the.
I think it would. I think if he says he thinks about retirement every day, thinks about it nonstop, retirement. I think that'd be that's a surprise to me. I will say that. That's a surprise. It's one thing to say, retirement's at some point, but thinking about retirement nonstop.
I think this is his last contract.
Well, it's still 2 more years after this year.
I know, right? Through 25 or through 26?
Through 25.
Yeah.
He's got 24 and 25. They could also restructure and extend them. But, if somebody thinks about retirement nonstop, it doesn't say that there's still 2 more years worth of playing football and going through the daily stuff of, they go through and talk about with his personal trainer and stuff of what he deals with on a daily basis and trying to get back in the game. And
you're saying that you're worried he would stop before then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
That makes sense. Especially a guy who's calling his NFL salary a side hustle.
Right. And now that his star has blown up to the point to where, they're talking about things he wants to do after football. Maybe be in a Marvel movie. Maybe do comedies. Maybe a stand-up comedian. Maybe in the broadcast booth. Like, if he's really worried about how his body hurts, and now maybe he's at a point to where his mom says he's the happiest she's ever seen him, if he's actually thinking about the next phase of life, settling down, having kids, and looking at his brother, do I want to have my body banged up when I'm trying to raise my kids? I've made enough money, and if I marry the billionaire, I don't have to worry about any more money. I can just simply go and live the life I want to live without worried about not being able to move my legs or anything like that. Yeah.
Get a prenup, though. You make sure you want to do that.
So, yeah.
Definitely. You don't want her taking his money. You want to protect those endorsements. I mean, they are coming in rapidly right now. He's already said that he's going to, at minimum, play out the rest of his contract. So he's already on record saying that. But it is, to me, somewhat of a revelation. To me. May not be to you, Mick, but to me, that he says he thinks about retirement nonstop and more than anybody could ever imagine how much he thinks about retirement. So I don't know. Yeah, it is concerning that
It's a revelation.
it's concerning that
But revealing it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that. It's concerning because this comes after he's already said, I'm going to play through the contract in 2025. That was before he started dating Taylor Swift. That was before all of this stuff that we're seeing where doors are going to be open for him that were never open before with movies and entertainment and things like that. So, I'd love to see him for 2 more years.
I got to imagine
just
just the podcast money alone
I bet
would
they're
be
making a
money
killing.
beyond our wildest dreams.
But they're
I have
making
a hard
killing.
time with the math on that because, like, I have some idea in some capacity of what podcasts generally are and generally
I don't know how you
make
make money on them.
And I don't know how they make enough money on it for it to be worth it beyond just like the footprint of it all. And I am confident that it is. So the podcast money is the most disconcerting one to me because it's close enough that I should understand how the math of all of that works. And I don't think I do. Now, I don't
so
understand
far
how they do the math.
It's close enough you should understand, but it's so far away in terms of commas
Yes.
that it doesn't compute.
The energy drink they're just constantly drinking and talking about. Like, I don't know how much. What does Experian
Well,
pay?
and how much do they, for every download or every subscription or whatever, what percentage do they get?
I bet. I
don't know.
That's not
But
really
then they
how
got to share it
podcast
with
works,
the
right? Yeah. With Wave.
the Wave Entertainment company.
And they're expanding. Yeah, that's interesting.
But he also talks about here, longtime tight ends coach Tom Melvin saying that Kelsey undersells the pain because alternative is not playing, and the man will not miss games. Quote, he has a phenomenal pain tolerance. He's played through things that other athletes I've coached through the years have not been able to. Mentally tough, way off the charts, says Kelsey's trainer, physical therapist Alex Gasel says there's not a single day in season where Kelsey stretches out in the training table and doesn't have some gruesome bruise. What few realize, however, is the insane number of scratches. Guys claw each other out there. Gasel says it can leave Kelsey's epidermis striated with crimson. To bounce
Now, read
back,
that whole sentence again.
It can leave Kelsey's epidermis striated with crimson.
Why did you say
It's the
skin?
Wall Street Journal. It's the Wall Street Journal.
I wanted you to say epidermis striated again because that's Wall Street Journal.
It's the
as
Wall
hell.
Street Journal. It can leave Kelsey's skin
cut. It can leave Kelsey's skin cut all over.
with crimson. To bounce back after such abuse requires more than basic therapy. Kelsey and Skasel use a battery of esoteric treatments from cupping to dry needling to occlusion therapy, essentially tying off a limb with a tourniquet while Kelsey works out. Kelsey also adheres to a pregame regimen of anti-inflammatories, which, this is an interesting point, says he doesn't like to discuss because they, quote, have a history of affecting people's insides, end quote. So he is worried about some of the pain medicine or the pills that he's constantly taking. Now, this is the author saying this, says, and this goes to the worried about retirement, stuff like this, says, despite it all, Kelsey sounds like a man who's never loved football more. So there's also that part of it to add in to where he's like, I've been thinking about retirement way more. And this guy saying is talking with Kelsey sounds like a guy who's never
Despite his efforts, Kelsey more and more turns into just this all-around wholesome guy, right? And the somebody tweeted out the other day that he's changing the bro narrative, right?
Yes, this is one of my favorite tweets of the
He's
weekend.
changing the bro. For years we made fun of bros. Turns out
Yes.
they're just fun-loving guys that like to feed squirrels bread.
squirrel as in SQUIRLE.
Yes, one of those. Maybe it's a different. It's
Squirely.
It's an animal only known to Ohio, I think.
That's great.
This tweet was in best contention for me. I will just read it now from Henrik Blix on Twitter. Travis Kelsey is single-handedly shifting the bro narrative. For years, we've only talked about bad bros and ignored an entire demographic of friendly dudes who love to play sports with their friends, feed squirrels, and laugh.
Yes, it's unbelievable. The tweets have been amazing because you've got the entire Swift army, the Swifties, doxing your old tweets. Boy, that could be dangerous. That could be scary. Because he's tweeting back in 2009, back in 2010, 2011.
There's got to be a thing now for these athletes, especially like right before they get drafted and stuff, where they go and have a company docs for them.
If you have a manager and a company and they're not doing that, fire them right now.
So, by the way, what does that entail? Does that mean, do you do @Mick Schaefer and then write a really bad word afterward to search it?
You could do that
works?
way.
You could do that, yeah.
You could. You do a little from : handle name. I do that sometimes find my own.
Or you
tweets.
just have the Swifties just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling till you get all the way back to 2009,
Just
2010.
put a Swiftie on it?
There's a lot of Swifties, no doubt. He talks about the relationship with Taylor Swift and the first date that he said somehow he managed to not be nervous. He said, when I met her in New York, we had already kind of been talking, so I knew we could have a nice dinner and like a conversation, and what goes from there will go from there. And he says, if anyone was nervous, he adds, it was his core group. Quote, everybody around me kept telling me, don't F this up. And I'm sitting here saying, yeah, I got it. Which is great. And then he talked about at the beginning when he wasn't doing media, when he and Swift first started dating, and he says, he said he was uncharacteristically guarded with the media. Quote, that was the biggest thing to me, to make sure I don't say anything that would push Taylor away. So he decided just to not talk at all, which I guess can sort of make sense because look at his tweets. Sometimes he says some stupid things, not stupid offensive things, but just some stupid things that are like, and then he's out saying like, she's a genius. She's one of the smartest people I've ever been around. Like, I want to do fart jokes with Chris Farley, and I guess his ringtone is like a Chris Farley, like yelling or something is like when people call him. It's just like, think about that. Like Taylor Swift is sitting down with him. And he says, I've never dated anyone with that kind of aura about them. I've never dealt with it. But at the same time, I'm not running away from any of it. The scrutiny she gets, how much she has a magnifying glass on her every single day, paparazzi outside her house, outside every restaurant she goes to, after every flight she gets off, and she's just living, enjoying life. When she acts like that, I better not be the one acting all strange. And then says what he can teach Taylor Swift about life. And he goes, football. It's the only thing I can think of that I can teach her. And then this is cool towards the end though. There's a lot of other stuff in there as well, but he's talking about the author was just driving around with Travis Kelce in his Rolls Royce around Kansas City, and he's showing him where his first apartment, when he would sneak in when rent was due and he didn't have the money to pay rent because he wasn't smart enough to know that the checks didn't come in the off season, so he didn't have any money. He spent all the money during the regular season thinking the checks would come the entire year, and then he didn't have money for rent.
He has grown up a lot.
He really has. He really has. But he says Kelce drives you past a jazz club he likes, a coffee place he used to frequent. Just recently he concedes he could have gone to a Starbucks in Manhattan without anyone looking twice. Those days are over. Minutes later, he's steering past a small airport where Swift's plane is often prominently parked these days. Yeah. And he says, there now, gleaming in the moonlight, the Kelce Eras Tour is coming to a close, left unsaid but palpable. She's at the house waiting. This dude's doing it. That's when you know it's kind of serious. If this guy's doing an interview with the Wall Street Journal, driving around town in a Rolls Royce, hanging out with this guy, talking about his life, while she's at his house just hanging out, waiting for him to get back.
And I wonder, are they driving around, or did he catch him at practice and they're just driving home to get all this?
Could be. But he says like he drives him to downtown, shows him in his apartment, drives past this place, drives past that place. I mean, yeah, it is a good question. How many times did they meet and do the different interviews? How often? Because it's not usually just one sitting when you're getting that much information. Plus, he's talking to Donna, to Jason. He's talking to his dad. He's talking to his friends, one of his friends since kindergarten, talking about, Kelce and behind. It's really interesting, all the stuff that you sort of get through. But that thing sort of stuck out to me that at the end, it's like her plane that's prominently displayed there quite often. And, she's just at the house waiting for Travis to get back. Oh. Yeah, it's a little more serious than people making it out to be a PR stunt who are dumb to begin with anyway. So, yeah, that's quite interesting. And if she's not there tonight, take the under. All that being said.
Absolutely.
Or.
She's probably not, I heard.
Sounds like she's probably not, yeah.
Or, let me throw this one at you, Mick. I brought this up with Josh.
Wait. My hands are ready to catch it.
Or.
Oh, that was not
do you
ready.
take the over because the parents of the significant other are there? He wants to impress them even more than Taylor. So now you're looking at like 150 and 2 tonight. 11 receptions, 150, 2 touchdowns tonight for Kelce.
Yeah, it's either 150 and 2 or 2. Just 2.
Two receptions, 11 yards.
Yeah.
And a fumble, unfortunately, which didn't cost him because they were up by 35. He just didn't play all that well. They had triple teamed him the entire night, but the parents still had a good time hanging out there. The Eagles tweet was great because somebody tweeted out Kelce, the pictures. It's one of these guys was a finals for Sexiest Man Alive. The other is dating Taylor Swift. The Eagles put out a tweet that said one of these guys was a finalist for Sexiest Man Alive. The other one's dating an Eagles fan. That was pretty good for the Eagles today to tweet that out ahead of the game. And it's interesting because these two teams are so good. There's not there doesn't feel like the rivalry like the Bengals
Yeah.
and Bills. It feels like there's a lot of, because of the Andy Reid and Howie Roseman
Kelsey thing, and-
Kelsey
yep.
thing and Jason and Kylie coming in town here to Kansas City
great
to
was
help
that?
with field hockey.
Yes.
Like to help teach a field hockey clinic and talking about, just giving back to the Kansas City community is really cool. It's like, how many days has she spent in Kansas City in her life? Like, that's pretty awesome. And that continual connection
I
between
bet
the two
enough,
teams.
right? You got Travis here.
But how often would she be visiting, like, Travis? Like, coming in town to visit Travis with, like, Jason or something like that, as opposed to Travis being in
I
Philadelphia
would
a
bet
lot.
some of those years where the Eagles were done and they're coming for playoff games
That's
here.
true.
You know?
That's a good point, yeah.
You know what?
That's
You
probably
throw the
happened.
single brother-in-law a holiday every now and then. We went and found my brother wherever he was living for a Thanksgiving or something like that. I think. I don't know. I don't think
You
back.
throw him a holiday from time
Every
to
now
time.
and
That's
we'll
great,
give you
yes.
Columbus Day. You okay?
Maybe next year, maybe Easter, but
Yes.
that's where you got some things to
well,
prove first.
President's Day,
We'll
maybe.
see. And speaking of Easter, Travis Kelce, hey,
Shout out
Jesus,
Jesus.
shout out Jesus taking one for the team. He just has the most ridiculous.
So good.
All right, well, we'll get into some Learn Funniest Best on the other side after we give out a ring here. Is it
Listen.
going to be to Kelsey and Swift? Is that
It's
going to
not.
happen?
It's not. Oh, mixed ring. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that
take
one.
mixed rings also. Let's see. What size we have? I'm gonna take off my ring from Ruback Fine Jewelry. Oh, I
goodness.
hate it. Oh, I hate that I'm making you got a fine ring. I think our ring sizes are probably about the same.
I have small, skinny, feminine typing finger hands.
Yeah.
Yep, you guys are definitely
yours
the
is,
same.
Yeah.
Yours is definitely a little bit ill-fitting.
You
Unlike
guys-
my
you-
beautiful ring from Ruback Fine Jewelry.
You guys have put in, what, a combined 3.5 man hours in your life?
Yeah, that's pretty much right. Yeah.
Bitch,
it
I
is.
worked on a farm.
I believe we were going to.
You know, Jason, Who Gets the Ring is brought to you by Ruback Fine Jewelry. Once you've been to Ruback one time, you're a customer for life. It doesn't matter if your hands are for typing or farming. Your ring from Ruback will look great. Call or text Hal today about scheduling your appointment at 913-649-8811 or visit their website at ruback.co. You know who gets the ring?
Who?
Tommy effin DeVito.
Oh.
First
Thought you were gonna
career
say
win.
Townsend.
First career win, 3 touchdowns while taking 9 sacks, and Tommy DeVito now has more games with multiple touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett. 2-1. Looks like I may have taken Mick's learned.
Mick is not happy because Mick was also going to give the ring to Tommy DeVito.
You can still have learned that, Mick, as long as you head over to Ruback Fine Jewelry in their new location in downtown Overland Park, now open, 913-649-8811, or visit their website at ruback.co. Mick, what'd you learn?
Well,
I'm gonna have to find a Mike DeVito stat.
I have a second
Danny
Tommy
He's
DeVito
only
stat.
one game back of Kenny Pickett in multiple touchdown games. Mike DeVito is.
Something about Danny DeVito, his time in the NFL.
Also 1 game back.
Time for Learn Funniest Best. It is presented by Pyramid Roofing. For a free estimate, 816-966-1101 or pyramidroofingkc.com. Boy, besides learning about all of the tweets from Travis Kelce and, learning that there are many, many worse things if you are scrutinized with all of your old social media posts. There are many worse things than just coming off as someone who is kind of a dumb jock that can't spell very well. I learned that. I also learned Tony Romo maybe wasn't aware of the audience he was talking to in the Bills and Jets game. So Romo, right before half of the Bills and Jets game, it's like 5 seconds left. And is this one of your learned or funniest or best, Dylan? Because
No, Romo just makes me laugh because you can tell that Jim Nantz is slowly starting to get annoyed.
So it was right before half. There was about 5 seconds left, and the Bills were lining up to maybe try to get in field goal range with one more timeout. And Romo was explaining the way the Jets were defending, that they just weren't sticking everybody, back deep, that they had some guys that were covering sort of the middle of the field, the shorter middle, like 5 yards away, like the middle of the field there. And as Romo was talking about that, he said, and Jim, you remember the 13 seconds with the quick passes with the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and Jim Nantz goes, I think a lot of people watching remember that, Tony. He was doing a Bills game and explaining how the defenses are different.
A lot of people remember that.
Than with that divisional game of 13 seconds when they didn't guard those quick passes to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. You remember the 13 seconds, Jim? I think a lot of people remember that are watching right now there, Tony. Tony!
Tony!
I don't know, Jim. I'm not sure if anybody remembers. There were 13 seconds. The Chiefs were able to get a field goal there. The end of regulation, forced overtime. They won the game. They went to the AFC Championship game, but the Bengals ended up going to the Super Bowl. Do you remember that? What'd you learn there, Josh?
I learned about Tommy DeVito, guys. Tommy DeVito is now tied for the 32nd most touchdown passes in Giants history. He's now tied with 1939-1940 tailback Eddie Miller, 1938 to 1940 punter Lynn Barnum, and Kurt Warner. They're all tied for 32nd most touchdown passes in New York Giants history. Next up, Bob Clatterbuck.
For real?
That's a made-up name.
All that, everything I just said there was absolutely legitimate.
His name's Jeff Clatterbuck.
Bob Clatterbuck.
You went a little deeper on that, so I'll let you have that learn.
He goes by Robert. Clatterbuck.
Really enjoying the Tommy DeVito stats.
All right, Mick, what'd you learn?
I learned that Andy Reid is undefeated in tonight's game.
Never lost.
Never lost the Chiefs. Never lost the Eagles.
That's right.
He is 4-0 against the Eagles as Chiefs head coach. 3-0 against the Chiefs as Eagles head coach. He is undefeated against one other team in the NFL, boys. Do you know who it is?
The Cleveland Browns.
Do you know what his record is?
3-0?
9-0.
9-0. Wow.
9-0.
9
All
times?
8 times regular
How many
season,
times
of course,
Donnie
1 time in the playoffs.
How many times Tommy DeVito got sacked? 9 times.
9 times.
9 times. He even beat him with a backup quarterback. Dang.
That he did.
Good for him. Good for Andy Reid. Yep, undefeated. 7-0 in this matchup, Chiefs and Eagles. Dylan, what'd you learn this weekend?
So I actually learned that Josh is a little bit closer to a prediction on something he called last week. An announcement came out, and respect was asked for his family at this time. And now he's given a public statement. So here is Snoop Dogg on giving up smoke.
I have an announcement. I'm giving up smoke. I know what you're thinking. Snoop, smoke is kind of your whole thing. But I'm done with it. Done with the coughing and my clothes smelling all sticky icky. I'm going smokeless. Solo Stove Fix Fire. They take out the smoke. Clever.
There it is. Nice job, Josh. You called it.
I thought it was going to be an edible brand, maybe a vape thing.
Yep.
It's a smokeless fire pit.
There you go.
We all saw this coming. Right?
Yeah.
This is when IHOP went to IHOP for like a month or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Burgers. Yeah, no, we get it. Okay, you're going back. And they went back.
IHOB.
You never give up on smoke or pancakes.
No, you don't.
Smoke and a pancake.
And every time you leave,
Or a cigar and a waffle.
Smells like that.
Bong and a blintz.
every time I come here, smelling like pancakes. All right, funniest for you from the weekend, Josh.
Correlating with another prediction that I have just currently in the hopper, the funniest thing from this weekend is yet another week of Aaron Rodgers reports. Ian Rappaport went on TV and said Rodgers would try to return in December if the Jets are in the playoff picture, and noted that he would be less mobile than he was before. That's right, fellas. When the Jets are 5-9 on Christmas Eve, Aaron Rodgers could return if he doesn't have to move his feet. Yeah, he won't have to be. He won't be that spry 39-year-old we saw slicing through defenses in Week 1. But if he can return just 2 weeks after his 40th birthday behind an offensive line built for chaos, he could return in time to face the Washington pass rush that sacked Tommy DeVito 9 times yesterday before they go to Cleveland on December 28th on Thursday Night Football on short rest. He's not playing this season. Stop it.
He will be less mobile. They're going to put him in a dunk tank.
So is all you did yesterday watch that
footballs.
Commanders and Giants game?
Apparently.
I was also doing
notes.
I did some light Tommy DeVito research during the game as well.
Why?
It's because of this. Because of this show and this segment. I needed to learn something about Tommy DeVito. And also, his name is Tommy DeVito. Unless Mikey Pauly transfers and then gets drafted by the Giants, this is the most Giants quarterback of all time.
And he lives with his parents.
Yes.
I still imagine him living with his
awesome.
parents. You see the TikToks of the two boys that live with and they're Italian. They live in a nice house somewhere outside of New York, and they play all these pranks on their mom and their dad, and it's hilarious. That's what I apparently clicked on it once, and I've clicked on them several more times. So my TikTok feed keeps feeding me them, but they're funny.
Apparently, Travis Kelce used to keep taking the shampoo out of his dad's shampoo bottle and just putting hand lotion in there.
That's awesome.
What a jerk. Which is totally right up to what you would think.
So on brand.
Hey, there's a football player for the Chiefs that used to take the shampoo out of his dad's shampoo bottle and put it in hands. Travis Kelce. Oh, yeah, how'd you get that one right? I don't know. Just call it a hunch. The funniest for you, Dylan.
The funniest for me was it was that Dobbs option. I don't know. It was very short. I don't have a clip, but you know, when you lose your quarterback for the season and then give up assets for a backup one, the first thing you always want to do is put him in immediate danger on an option play directed to him.
Receiving the option.
Option.
Well, I mean, you didn't want him to do the tush push. You don't want to get injured.
Right, exactly.
So you have Hawkinson under center to fake the tush push, and then you flip it to Dobbs on the option.
The Chiefs are running this play tonight. I don't know what you guys are wondering, what you're going on about here.
With Gabbert?
This is no. It'll be Blake Bell takes the snap and then pitches it to Patrick Mahomes, who gets blown up in space. But it's not a sneak.
Can he throw it then?
Not allowed.
I mean, if he just pitches it backwards, go ahead and throw that thing down the field. My funniest from the weekend is something.
Whoa. Where's my funniest?
I don't know.
Didn't we go to your funniest after?
No,
my funniest.
Oh, we skipped
Dylan's
yours?
funniest, I think.
Apparently, yeah.
I'm sorry, Mitch.
My funniest was Tommy DeVito, which was stolen, and now it's been skipped. That's fine. I don't need notes because I'm one on the fly.
Sorry,
I've
Nick, what
never
was the funniest?
seen a coach post-game interview while the game was still going on. So Eli Drinkwitz with 1 second left, and then he ended his interview with 1 second, and he runs off, and one more play, which was silly. But funny, apparently. The funniest thing that happened to me this weekend.
I wish Katie George would have gone. I just talked to the referees, and they're telling me there's 1 second to be put back on the clock. 1 second, guys. That is my report here from the sideline after talking with the referees, not Eli Drinkwitz. Dylan, what was your funniest? Oh, the option.
The Dobtion.
The Dobtion. That's right. Oh, the Dobtion.
What a call.
I got portmanteaus for days.
Love it. Okay, cool. Whatever that is. My funniest goes back to last Monday with the funniest when we were hanging the ornaments on the tree, and my daughter was looking for the hookers, the hooks, and she kept calling them hookers. And then I finally found the whole box of them, and she told Mommy, Daddy's got a lot of hookers. That continued over the weekend, all the hookers, by the way. We also had hooks for the ornaments. But we're putting all the Christmas ornaments up on my son's tree, and we laid them all out on his bed. And so we're putting the hookers on the ornaments and everything and putting them up on the tree. And after we were done, my daughter had a great idea that we need to look for hookers in Bubba's bed, just in case.
I've heard about that kid. It might be good advice.
So the family, we went ahead and searched Everett's bed for hookers.
Find any?
Found one.
Really?
I was very disappointed in the 8-year-old.
Really?
Yeah, there was one.
Did you find any?
It could have hurt him
anything
too.
that could hang ornaments from?
Yeah, that's. Oh wait. Yeah, we found one, and luckily he did not get injured sleeping there with the hooks from the ornaments.
What
But
are those supposed to be called? I've never.
Hooks.
They're gonna be hookers forever now.
Hooks, ornament, hooks,
They're
whatever.
just- No, they're hookers. She had it right the first time, man.
So-
That's what they should be called.
I mean, look, when Daddy's got a lot of hookers, you might want to check Bubba's bed to see if there's a hooker in there.
Just in
because
case.
if he said that they could stay the night, just being nice. I'm just trying being nice.
My kids, when they were growing up, they called them prostitutes. It was so cute.
Did they really?
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Oh, I know where you're getting
I know
it
what
from.
you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about hanging the ornaments.
Yeah.
That's weird. Mick is, boy, he's interesting today.
I mean, your hands aren't clean here.
No, they're not.
That's my daughter was calling it that. It's a fun laugh that kids say
My
the
kids
darndest
said
thing.
that,
There was a
apparently.
whole TV show about kids saying the darndest things. All right? They laughed at those. Why can't we laugh at this? Ridiculous.
I love it. We're all having a fun
All right, let's
time.
get into the best. I'll go first. My best is Friday night football. I'll go first on
This is
best.
out of order stuff here.
My best, and there's a new rule that if you
We're gonna let you go last because you're gonna have the line that goes to break. I guess.
There's a new rule that you can no longer use anybody else's learned or funniest or best if somebody uses it. So I'll go first with the best. My best was probably Mill Valley.
Makes
Friday
sense.
night.
Should be everybody's best.
Mick, you go now. You got to pick a different one. I already used that one. What was your best?
Oh man, Cheney had a big win over Andale. That was
I knew it.
It was a wild night in Kansas high school football, by the way. Derby wins on a last-second field goal. Cheney wins over Andale. Andale had the longest win streak in the nation at like 59 games, and Cheney beat them in the regular season. And they had to face again in the postseason. Everyone's like, "Well, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have gotten Andale's attention." Cheney beats them again.
About that.
And so they're on to the state championship game. Then, of course, okay, it's the greatest game ever if you watched it because the actual game was a track meet. It was unbelievable. And the greatest ending ever. When's the last time you saw a walk-off touchdown, right? In regulation. We see him in overtime, right, or whatever. That wasn't a Hail Mary. It was like, well, we got the ball with 3 minutes left and 70 yards to go. And they scored on the very last play with 3 seconds to go from the 7-yard line.
Yeah.
A run. A scramble.
And thankfully, no controversy or anything around the game. It's all good.
Bang, bang play.
I know, yeah.
It happens.
I mean, even on replay, it's like if you paused it, still frame. Like I've seen the pictures and everything, the still frame and the pause of it's not as egregious as at least some in North Rockhurst, where the ball was clearly on the ground, rolling around. The guy, kicked it and threw it to a fan. The fan threw it back, and then the officials were like, I feel like he caught that. I know he was at the concession stand, but he actually ordered a football from the concession stand. I feel like he caught it the whole time. No big deal. Let's just all come together and agree.
But yeah, the play before was 11 seconds left. Our quarterback was rolling out, and as he was throwing, he was being tackled, and they called it an incomplete pass. Replays, the slow-mo replays on the broadcast, because it was a Spectrum game, you couldn't tell, but then there's the still pictures out there because everybody had their phones out for both sides because this was coming down to the wire. And it was a 1-point win, too, right? It was a 1-point walk-off win because Mill Valley's down 5. They didn't kick the PAT. They scored the touchdown. And so everybody had their phones out, so you see some of it. And look, if I was Blue Valley Southwest, I'd be upset, about it, too. They're great fans, they're a great team and everything. And
really good
you can
team
always
this year.
you can play the game of like, well, a few plays earlier this happened and this thing happened back and forth from both teams, missed calls, and I'm not going to do that. You know, I'll just leave it as it is.
Amazing.
It was an amazing.
game.
It was Mill Valley's had a very great 5-year run, and I tell people, like, they haven't been unlucky yet. They've been lucky. I wouldn't call that lucky. That game could have gone either way, right? They just haven't been unlucky in the playoffs. We had a few close games over these last 5 years, and the ball has just never bounced the other team's way. And it was a charmed victory, and it was a great. It was the most. We've had a few games like that, but that is the most excited our family has ever been. I got to my son on the field. My son plays defensive tackle, and he was actually the first. You see all the video. He was the first guy from the sideline to the dog pile on the field. I'm like, that's the fastest you've ever run. You should don't run the 40 next year at the team's combine, right? Just show that. We'll time that because that is clearly the fastest you've ever run any sort of distance. And then my other son was there. He was with the alumni. They were right in front of the play. That's where all the alumni was. There were 20 or 30 kids that have been back. And these Mill Valley boys, they feel the weight of the program and all those all those accomplishments on their shoulders. So to have it happen right in front of them, all these pictures of both my sons right there, one in street clothes, one on the deal. And then my son got there, and I gave him a big old hug. He had blood coming down his nose and all over his mouth. And I was like, it was a physical game out there, wasn't it, buddy? He's like, no, my coach just hugged me and his forehead hit my nose. He's shorter. He's shorter than me. I'm like, all right, don't tell anybody that. We'll just keep the blood there for the pictures, okay?
I'm just going to tell people tomorrow or on Monday. Don't tell anybody that. It's the highs and lows, man. It feels awful for Blue Valley Southwest.
Nobody outside of Mill Valley is cheering for Mill Valley at this point. Nobody's like, you know what? I have no dog in the fight, but I would really like to see Mill Valley win a 5th straight title. Southwest just has studs, skill position guys all over the field. Dylan Dunn, the quarterback, will get my vote for Simone Award. He's thrown for
Are you allowed
30.
to give away your vote already? It's like
the
Heisman.
I am. It's not sanctimonious like the Heisman or whatever.
Okay. Wow.
But he threw for like 3,600 yards in 12 games this year. Do that math real quick. Over 300 yards a game. 47 touchdowns in high school football in 12 games. That's close to 4 a game. And I think he might have been 3,700 yards. And only 5 interceptions. Wow. And to a 10-2 record and one of the best teams in the city. So and then 2 stud receivers and all that. But Mill Valley has some great players. It was funny. It was a battle of kind of skill guys against Mill Valley's this year. Just have some interior dudes that get physical and usually win the line of scrimmage. So it was 2 very different styles, and it was a great game Friday.
One of them.
That was all 4 of your best. So
yes,
I
already said
go to
that.
break. Should I say another cuss word again? So we go to break.
Yeah, it's like a PG-13 one.
Dylan, your best?
My best was last night. Alexander Madison had a chain for his mouthpiece. If you hadn't seen it yet, CJ Fogler, who sees everything on television basically, tweeted a picture out about it. So he's still in the spirit of Coach Haynes as well, as his mouthpiece is too.
That's phenomenal. My best, quite simply, 4th and 17. Brady Cook to Luther Burden, and still keeping the New Year's 6 Bowl alive and 10 wins. They got to beat Arkansas on Black Friday. And then after that game, they'll Arkansas fire Sam Pittman, and Mizzou will go to a New Year's 6 bowl game. Josh, your best?
A few weeks back, the most important thing from that Texas Tech TCU game was, of course, the possum running on the field. Texas Tech is undefeated since that game, and they gave out possum rally towels for this game last week. And so now, what's next? It's just Texas trying to bring the Big 12 into even further chaos. What's more chaotic than a possum? Absolutely nothing. So Texas Tech and the rally possum towel are my best.
I can't. I got to cheer for Texas. O State's got to win, and Texas got to win. That's their path. It's going to feel weird. I'll be in the shower. I won't even take a shower after. I'll be in the shower for the entire game. Trying to stay because the dirt's going to get on me for 3 straight hours. Yeah.
All right, we'll come back. We will let you know what we think is going to happen tonight. 7:15 kickoff on ESPN/ABC. More Zone next. right, let's get into what we think is going to take place tonight. 3-point favorites are the Kansas City Chiefs. 45.5 is the total for tonight. Mick, what do you got? Chiefs, Eagles, and what score?
I'll go 21-18 Chiefs. Low scoring. I like the 3-point spread. I don't know if I'd normally like this game, but it's at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, and Andy Reid is still the coach, and they just had a bye. There have been 40 games in the NFL since the last time the Chiefs have played.
Unbelievable. Crazy. It's crazy. Dylan, what do you say?
I'm going to go 21-17 Chiefs.
21-17.
1 point away.
Josh?
23-21 Chiefs. I'm not picking them to give up 24 points
Here
yet.
comes 37-17.
25 at least.
I'm going 24-20.
So none of us had a team breaking
Bills.
25?
No, Chiefs. 24-20. So we all went Chiefs. So
we all went the under, right? Pretty hefty.
What is the under?
45.5. So that's I'm probably the most aggressive there, and I was 44. So, well, you went 44 as well.
I'm just sliding right under there, right on the Eagles cover and right under the under.
39 for Mick, 38 for Dylan. So we
think a
all have the
low-scoring game
Chiefs
is a good
winning,
thing.
lower scoring, and a close one at the end. We'll see what ends up happening. Thank you, Mick.
Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We don't say
though.
that often enough.
But more, thank you for having me.
No, appreciate it.
Any other naughty words you want to say before we get out of
I
here?
love learning about the farm that you were on. So good for you.